Welcome everybody to the official, unofficial VCS English stream. My name is Jensen, and looks like my background's a little bit stuttering over there. But if you hear my voice, that's just great. If you're wondering what's Jensen, is that Jensen? Is that Bjergsen? No, it's the imposter. I'm from Asia, and I once upon a time I coached in the VCS. What am I doing here, hosting the desk? Well, today I am the one who asks the questions, and the people I will be asking some questions to will be Melvin Nogi and Quincy, who will be joining me on the analyst desk today. So here we are for right. This is going to be the match that determines who will be facing off against Gam in the finals. We have SBTC Esports going up against Cerberus Esports, or as they say in Vietnamese, Battle Chó, which means three-headed dog, as they very so endearingly call them. So does anybody have any insights onto what might be a rather adorable pet or to some a rather scary monster in the form of the three-headed dog? I'm gonna hand this one over to you, Quincy.
Of course. My name is Quincy, as you just now rightfully introduced me, and I just hope, of course, that my beloved team, the Three-Headed Dogs, pick up one win for each of those heads on the dog. And for the side of SPTC Esports, I mean, of course, the chicken is a very scary team to really hold accountable here. And after yesterday's performance, especially against Garm, where they look quite good, I'm a little bit scared if I was a Cerberus fan. So let's wait and see what the chicken has in store.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one. I mean, we can look at a little bit at how Cerberus managed to find their wins against Wales, leaning into the carry jungle style with the Kindred and a lot of the Lysandra coming out from there, which was something Garm was also doing in their matchup against SPTC, but SPTC was able to beat that back a little bit, beat the Lysandra at least, maybe not the Kindred, so maybe playstyle can make this match up a lot closer than we think, but if we compare their relative performances to GARM, SPTC does look like they're coming out the favorite.
Right, so some predictions in the favor of SBTC over here. Run me through a little bit of these players. I'm a man from the Wayback Machine, DL1. This is the guy when I was still coaching in Evols. We picked him up from solo queue. He was a multi-role talent, right? Some people say that these days he's not so much even a multi-champion kind of talent. So what does the mid lane match up? Because this is something that I think fans more familiar to VCS will be familiar with. Yado, or back in the day known as Zero Day, going up against DL1. How do you think this is going to be panning out between the two mid laners between these two teams?
So, is it your fault that DIY1 has been picked up? I just now get a hold of this fact. Either way, with DIY1 against Yado, it's interesting because Yado is more of the conventional mid laner nowadays, I would say. There has been like one play where he was only playing Ari, and this split, ironically, his Ari was looking kind of bad, but he's definitely gaining up some steam on picks like the Talia, like the Veigar, like the Annie, and even the Wise to some extent. And DIY1 is kind of the player that goes like for these weird picks. He doesn't even have a few of them, but there's like something like the Silas, like the Tristana in his arsenal that he also played yesterday. And on those especially, he looked quite good.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I definitely think, and on the other side we have like Dia. He tends to have a very specific set of champions he wants to play, but on the things like the Tristana, the Syndra, he can absolutely be a powerhouse and carry it through. But but also especially in the in like regular split, he was trying to pull out a lot of these more setup champions like the Annie, like the Gragas, to try and bolster his team in a team fight rather than solo carry.
So this is the interesting thing that about the way that mid jungle works in competitive play. You usually want to have a mid laner that has agency and then a jungler that then fulfills the carry position or the other way around. You do not want both junglers and mid laners to be doing any Lee Sin. If you're doing Lee Sin in the jungle, you want a greedy mid laner, someone who can play the Azir, the LeBlanc, who can then make use of the pressure and agency that Lee Sin provides you. And the same applies the other way around. And with a high agency mid laner like DL1, who usually plays all these type of bully carries in the mid lane, how do you think this sets up for your jungler, or perhaps what jungler we might be seeing today from the teams?
So DMK definitely leans a little bit more towards the sort of supportive junglers. The Gragas maybe probably the one which is putting out the most damage, but his most played in this regular split was Sejuani. Then of course the Wukong had insanely high presence, and he was one of the few players that really valued like the Maokai pick even after it received the nerfs to the AP build. So he's definitely continuing that style he's pretty much always seemed to have of the sort of low econ setup jungler, rather than that big super carry style like Levi has sometimes been, like Killer Queen has been at times. Whereas Drakthar seems like he can fit a bit more into the carry style, especially in the series against Wales. He pulled out the Kindred and showed us that to pretty good success. And with that sort of in mind, I think that flexibility might help out the drafts for Cerberus, because they don't stick to one style of mid jungle.
So,
Yeah, I
Quincy, I'm
think
gonna
that's
put
kind
you
of
on the
like what
spot over here. Sorry
yeah.
about that, but I'm gonna put you on the spot over here. Let's say you're the coach of CES, okay? So you're the famous Mr. Lee, or whoever who's running the coaching stuff on the draft for or the roster for CES today. Looking at both teams right now, who will you choose to field as your jungler?
Mm, between Draktar and Ego? I would feel Draktar right now. The problem with Ego is like recently like when he won the Winter Split, he was like maybe the star jungler of the whole VCS, was even overpowering Levi in the finals to some extent, I would say. But now Draktar kind of changed, maybe even because Ego is like breathing down his neck and kind of urging just to replace him. But I would feel Draktar because of the following reasons. Draktar is like the more stable jungler in general. He just doesn't really put in the recency in the sense that he kind of has picks in the focus that are just less volatile. As in general, he likes to play the Wukong a lot. But also, he recently picked up the signature pickups from Evo himself, with him feeling stuff like the Viego, and also, as Mabinogi just now attested to, the Kindred against Team Wales. And if he can also play the champion that Ego was so good on, there's like no real reason anymore to really feel Ego. But still, if I would be Cerberus coach, I would still have Ego up, of course, ready to play out as a potential trump card if the series goes south and if SBTC is on match point. I would maybe feel Ego if Draktar has a bad day.
Right, and then this contrasts with Yado's champion pool, and that definitely makes sense as well in terms of how you're going to be setting this up. But now we're going to bring things over. We talked a little bit about mid jungle. Let's bring things over to the bot lane. This has been the headliner match for the VCS multiple times. Both of these 80 carries have won it during the pandemic with Team Flash, and now they face off against each other in today's matchup. We have Artemis playing for CES, and then we have Slater playing for SBTC. Who do you think comes out the hate in this 80 carry head-to-head today? Let's throw it over to you, Mabinogi. What do you think is going to be the result of this bot lane head-to-head?
So I think in playoffs, I would think I would be leaning a little bit more towards Slater in terms of how they've been playing out the lane so far. And they've definitely, I think SBTC has certainly played a little bit more in towards him in some respects, but it should be pretty close there. What it might end up coming down to is how well the supports play out, because both of these 80 carries are just fantastic in their positioning. I mean, we're getting a graphic from the official stream here. There's a lot of damage coming out from Artemis. He's putting out a hell of a lot more of his team's percentage carry, but that's partially to do with how the teams are set up. They work around. They've been relying on these lower damage mid laners quite a lot. A lot of Lissandra, a lot of tanks for Pun. Whereas going to compare that towards Dia playing a lot of Tristana and Syndra, there's just going to be a bit more of a damage share spread across the team. So little bit of a falsehood there, but I do think overall Slater has been a big standout player for the side of SBTC.
Well, if I'm somebody who has been watching the international scene of League of Legends and just keeping in touch with the VCS every once in a while, when I see Slater, I say that it's going to be a Kaisa angle. Slater is going to be playing. Now, once again, Quincy in the drafting position and the big brain coach role here. What is or maybe here we can draw a little bit of the fantasy here, right? What do you think is going to be the two champions played by these players that encapsulates what it means to have Slater go up against Artemis?
I think the Kaiser has been like a little bit less of a stable in the meta in general, but I think while still played one game of it, I would definitely fear more the Jinx pick coming up for the side of Slater, and I think both AD carries kind of want to have the Jinx in the best case scenario paired with a Thresh together, so maybe even just go for the Thresh pick at the first round, and then just have the enemy team kind of pick between either Jinx or Failed as a pairing against these situations. As you would definitely be able to get one of those champions. I think if I was Artemis, I would also have a potential Xayah pick up as like my answer if the Jinx happens to go through. But in general, just prevent Slater from getting the Jinx. He just looks so comfortable on the champion, and even if you would deny the Jinx Fresh lane, they could also play stuff like Jinx Lulu, and that is also a very scary threat in these competitions. So I think if I was on Cerberus' side, I would definitely have something prepared and just not get Slater Jinx in general. Either pick it away or ban it.
Zaya versus Kaiser was the original idea I had in mind, but looks like you're framing it versus Zaya versus Jinx. And as you brought it back, as what Mabi was saying earlier, that this is going to be about how both teams channel resources into the bot lane and the reliance of that. That brings us either to the support position. Let's try over to Mabi. Do you want to talk about the supports or top laners, and if any of these roles can be the wildcard factor that determines the outcome of the series?
So I feel it should be a little bit of the top lane should be the wild card 100% if you're looking for that sort of angle, because both Enpa and Pun were in the regular split tied for the most solo kills at 28. They've both had great impacts on their teams. Enpa was pretty much crushing Nagia and pretty much finding absolutely insane Cassante plays in the matchup against Wales, getting big 3-man knockbacks with the Torfo strikes, third Q. And then Pun, he's been a little bit more of a wild card. He's pulled out the Olaf. He's reached in and pulled out the Swain rather as that counterpick to things like the Malphite. So I think these two players have definitely been trying to make their flex their champion pools a little bit to some success, to varied success, of course. But I think it's definitely something that they're looking to get involved and be a big part of the equation as much as a top laner can.
With that, I believe we're into draft is Cannon on the table. We were talking about top lane, the presence of the Cassante, that's going to be open. Cannon, the big bookie member of the format, that is open as well. Run me through, how do you think this is going to be occurring, as we have the first pick on blue side being the Wukong being secured by the three-headed dogs?
Yeah, it's Wukong, of course, being the first pick on the side of Black to just secure his most comfortable champion. Like, aside from Levi, I would argue that he's maybe the best Wukong in the league right now. With him, like, I think he played 11 regular split games on it and actually won 8 out of them, which is a very good win rate for a stable champion. And as this goes to the side of SPTC, they actually kind of pull away from what we were expecting initially, with not going for the Jinx, but going for the Zeri instead. Zaya, of course, being banned away by Cerberus. This is something that is a surprise to me, as I would expect like this to be like Artemis' most renowned champion in the recent times in general. So they just go for the Zeri first pick. Might actually still go for something like the Annie as they are going right now, to deny that pickup from the side of Yado. What I now want to see from Cerberus is picking your ADC right now to just prevent it from getting pinned from SPTC's next rotation of bans.
Looks like it's going to be that, and presumably the Nautilus comes in from Run OP because he plays 2 champions. One of them is banned already, so pick up the Nautilus straight away. And from there, that lets you have a little bit of flexibility and freedom. You can feel safe, relatively safe taking the Lulu. You can flex the Annie, of course, to support position if you want. So maybe I feel a jungle pickup comes in next for the side of DK. There it is. There's the Vi currently being considered.
One of the
Vi being looked in.
One of the things that we didn't really consider is the support matchup. Ronald and Palette have been the staple of the VCS in this bot lane, in this setup. They haven't had the most success in recent years, but when you think about iconic supports in the VCS, these are 2 possible players that come to mind. We're all through from the days in Saigon Jokers for Ron OP, or the Saigon Fantastic 5 for him, and for Palette, making even some international splashes when there's rumors of TSM wanting to pick him up as well. Now, this is going to be a battle of supports here. What do you want to see Palette pick up against this Nautilus?
What I could see him pick up something like a Fresh here, because it would just be such a good disengage tool against the Nautilus especially. I mean, the Nautilus just being picked up instead of the Fresh on the side of Cerberus, just to have this guaranteed lockout on the Zeri, with the Death Charge coming out to just prevent him from moving around, and also the Vi being a pickup on the side of SPTC. To just prevent that from being potentially on the Cerberus side. So what I expect is something like the Fresh, but they also can just go for any Enchanter support basically to just enable the Zeri as much as they want. Something like the Lulu would be possible there, but I think it's very risky to just draft Zeri Lulu against Jinx and Nautilus on the side, especially of Artemis and 1OP, who are very strong 2v2 bot lane in general. Not as strong as they have been in recent years, but right now it's still just very much of a gamble to pick this volatile bot lane here. So I would expect a Fresh, but I could also see them going for Lulu.
Right, so SBTC kind of have the card space up at the moment, but CES knows what's coming. They know that they're going to go all in on the Slater train. Lots of engagement on Nautilus, lots of engagement from the Yukong. You're probably expecting a Lulu or something like that, which is what you could expect when you have an Annie and Vi in the mid lane. But what do you think can be picked up here on 4-5 Mubby that you think can change the fates of SBTC possibly?
Well, this is what I was going to say. I always think Braum is a good answer into Nautilus. He can absolutely shut that pick down completely. It might have been better on an R5, see what the solo lane's going to come out with, what they were going to come out as first, but you feel pretty comfortable with that Braum pickup. Ari now going to be locked in, so I think Braum is going to be a good piece of defense for this area. And now we're going to see where Pun wants to go with his top lane pick. If they lock in that Malphite, we've seen the Swain come out as a potential answer and as an answer in the past, so that might just be the way for it. Oh wait, no, it's Enpa. Look, I've got my teams mixed up. So,
Pun was on the Swain.
Pun was on the Swain. Yeah, I thought Cerberus was red side for some reason, but they are not. No, so yeah, I wonder what's left for Emperor. A tank would be a good option. It's a decent option into the top side, but it's not a huge Emperor champion. But Ornn it is. It's all about Slater, baby.
Right. So I think we have both teams stacked up on both sides. I think SBT is going for starting this series with a statement. This is perhaps maybe the ammo for the series. Everything on the Slater. We're playing front to back team fighting with Slater as a central carry piece. Want to sum it up for me, Chris, just what CES's response by this to be?
Well, what I really like from Cerberus is that they actually neutralize the top lane matchup pretty decently, because usually they like to put Pun on the weak side, and they actually got a tank versus tank matchup against Anpa, who likes to play carries a lot. However, Anpa has been a player that definitely played a bit of Ornn and was surprisingly successful on this pickup, so it's actually a decent fit for the start of SBTC in my opinion. And they also got the better support matchup, and they got Braum into Nautilus, which is something that the Nautilus dislikes to play very much, and also a good mid-jungle duo to really focus down Yado's Ari in the early game. And if Yado can play respectfully, and if the bot lane plays the way I expect it to happen with Artemis and 1OP pulling out ahead in the long term, I think Cerberus can win this game.
Right. Great summary of that. And with that, let's head over to Costas, who will be delivering us the broadcast for this game.
Thank you very much, Desk. Oh yeah, welcome back, Mobby. Long time no see. As we're jumping into our first game of the series here in our losers bracket final, trying to determine who it is that's going to be going on to our VCS 2023 spring finals to take on GAM Esports. And what a first game as well. Not crazy carries from a bunch of different positions. We had a little bit of damage here and there in the mid lane, but for the most part, it is a bot lane versus bot lane focused matchup. I think for good reason between these two teams.
Yeah, both these teams, so especially if you lean towards the regular season and historically, these bot lanes have been where the bread is buttered for their respective teams, and this has just been, and it's just looking like we're gonna go back to this. It's just an extended 1v1 essentially, as it's all about setting up for that AD carry to bring you home the Nexus, and it's gonna be a little bit interesting. Slater playing it a little bit riskier, not wanting to run the cleanse, has that Braum beside him, so we'll hopefully be able to get in there and block, say, the charms and the hooks coming on through for him, so he doesn't necessarily need to rely on that as much, and you can't do anything about the knockups, so just take Ghost.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is that, or at least maybe this is a distinction that's been pointed out by the desk, but I think it's worth kind of re-highlighting here. You've got like Malphite into Ornn to begin the game. Malphite's got a ton of power. I think we've seen that displayed in a couple of other kind of games in the VCS and in plenty of other places around the world. Wukong into Vi is a solid matchup to kick off the game. Like, the Wukong has won that duel more often than we've been able to see. In fact, I think it was Drakthar who actually got absolutely devastated in this 1-to-1 matchup right at the tail end of the regular season, where he wasn't allowed to farm for like the first 5 minutes of the game or something, because he was like, I think it was DNK that actually yoinked every single one of his camps or something like that on this exact same matchup. And then obviously, again, without the cleanse, you have to worry about things like Rana P's ultimate, the cleanse, or the charm coming through. So there's a lot more agency for Cerberus at the beginning of the game versus Zeri scaling and Ornn scaling to be able to provide free items and free gold and stuff. Is that a bearing that you're picking up in this game?
Yeah, I think I think the aiming for the sort of your scaling is the way, because I mean, you think about Malphite, he sort of gets bullied around a little bit, then has kill pressure at 6, but you're not gonna have that against a Norn realistically, unless Emperor really stuffs it up. So,
Or
or
Malphite.
of course, Drakthar comes along. So that
Sure.
should neuter a little bit of what the Malphite wants to get done, especially in the early stages of the game. So at that point, you're not quite as scared of him. You can kite back a little bit more. You can play it a lot safer. And all in all, it's been quite well. I've also liked the sort of mind games from SBTC. They walked away from their minions just a little bit to fake putting a ward into that Tribrush, so that meant Drakthar just didn't even poke his head in towards that bot side and went away as the pings did come down. But now they're able to push in quite freely and get wards down for a potential reset and second clear.
Yeah, it hasn't been anything too crazy. Both of our junglers just finishing up their first clears now, and it seems like there's basically no opportunity for Vine. There's very limited opportunity for Drakthar here on the top side. And even in mid lane, I mean, the push in onto DL1 means the DL1's not really in a position to be ganked either. So it should just be a full clear. Both junglers are kind of sitting on that right now. They're finishing up the crab. There's nowhere for them to gank, and they're probably just going to end up backing with nothing else to really be able to do. You can see, yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a wraparound here for DNK, who has to avoid this Tribrush ward. With this ward, they know that the Krugs are now gone. You have to make the assumption that either A, Drakthar took these out of vision, which is why DNK drops a second ward, or they're waiting for the Wukong to show back up, which I guess DNK is not going to be patient enough to actually wait for it to show up. They're not going to wait for servers to push up, and instead, again, both junglers get away on this first clear without making too much impact.
Yeah, that second ward drop is a little bit of a strange one, because it's not like if it was a little bit deeper to check one of the entrances, maybe check up towards those raptors, he will be spotted on this one, and maybe no, he won't be spotted quite yet. But as an idea, so like you can see when the Wukong is coming into the jungle, and you can sit around a little bit, and then if Wukong makes his way down here, you just hit the reset button. But as it is right now, it's just going to be bit of time, a bit of opportunity to spot him and get an exact timer on those Krugs. We have Yado on the roam against Dia, but he's going to find himself caught out a little bit here. Just a bit of trading, but it's gonna make Yado's life a little bit more annoying, make his roams a little bit less effective, as now we're just waiting for seeing the top laners keep whacking at each other. And for having the advantage of being able to build the Barmy Cinder in lane means he should be a little bit happier and can delay his back a lot longer than Pun has to.
The faith that I'm holding out here is that, again, if SBTC allows this game to go forever and they start getting onto Ornn itemization, start getting onto Zeri itemization, there should be a relatively easier team fight coming through for the team, because eventually Jinx is going to have to step up, even if you have rapid fire cannon, even if you've got the range advantage like Artemis has. Artemis is also really prone to being very aggressive in the positioning, which means more potential punishment from DNK, from Emperor, from Palette, from DL1, from all of these members that have that. Which is something you have to pay attention to. With all the through damage that you've got from Slater coming out in the late game, especially again with that kind of extra gold on top of the Ornn itemization, if you let this game go too long as the side of Cerberus, it feels like you're going to be in a rough situation, especially when you consider that Slater's been an insane carry for this team, literally all split. In the same way that Artemis always has been for the side of Cerberus, Slater has really stepped up for this team and been the big difference maker that's allowed them to step into this position, as opposed to SBTC falling off a cliff in the middle of the split and ending up missing playoffs and a lot of other positions and a lot of other splits. This split, because of the way that Slater and Palette have really stepped up, they actually made that transition towards being a top team. And so I don't know that that's a contention you want to take. If I'm Cerberus, I feel a little bit more pressed to try to make some early action happen. Yet here they are, giving up first dragon in the game off the back of bottom side pressure, really just yielding quite a bit to what it is that SBTC is kind of doing around the map.
That's an answer, I suppose, as we've found the kill into the mid lane. I was gonna actually sort of say, how does Yado? I was interested to see how Yado would be playing out the Ahri build, but. Deal
1. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Get wrecked. I mean, that's just his fault. He steps up to try to deny the back, and then the flash charm from Yato is perfect to be able to deny him. And it is first blood. Again, this is a champion that Yato is very comfortable on, so you don't necessarily want to be giving gold over like that. It's not the end of the world by any standard. Certainly an unforced error there by Dia1.
Yeah, Yato capitalizing on Dia's greed and aggression pretty well there. And I'm interested to see where he goes. He's picked up the early Doran's ring. I want to see how much damage he's willing to put in, or if he's going to be playing full setup Ari for Artemis, because I think it might come down to a little bit of which four-man squad can assassinate the other ADC better. And going up against an Annie, Vi, and an Ornn might make a Ari with no damage a little bit rough.
Okay. Flash from Pun. Drakthar's coming in as well. That's going to be the ultimate popped. Another ultimate coming through from Ornn. They're just going to catch him. That's 3 members who are able to bring him down, and DNK is going to be able to get the kill as it was a proxying Pun. Didn't think he was going to have to leave. That's going to be Dia1 knocked up by the Cyclone. That's going to be Zeri in the mid lane as well. Slater is going to get knocked up too, but Drakthar is in a rough position. Has to flash to get over the wall. Now Slater is going to slide and continue. See if is Yato going to be able to help? No, he's not. He doesn't have the charm really be able to. He's not going to come through. Slater's going to continue just dropping damage. There's the charm, but it doesn't matter. Slater just gets out of it after the dash, gets out of tower range, and 2 kills over to the Zeri.
Okay.
Disaster.
Yeah, I thought this was going to turn out pretty okay for Cerberus. They'd end up trading overall the kill onto Malphite and the Rift Herald just for some plates. Like, it's going to be a negative play, but you're getting something back on Artemis because Slater made them roam up. But Slater, with that Ghost, just able to run down both Yato and Drakthar. And with those 2 kills in pocket, you just pretty much win everything. Like, 1 plate is definitely nothing back in that situation.
Now DNK, I think, wanting a little bit more. Waiting for the Grom to get aggressed against. He's going to be in the tri-brush, so he's going to see that Drakthar is taking that camp if he stands far enough down. No, he's just waiting for a gank onto the top lane here. So here's Pun and Palette. Also, everybody's showing up to the top lane yet again, trying to punish the Malphite just a little more. The swap from Slater and Palette up to top side with DNK having this Rift Herald. Might have wanted to yield some tower plating of some kind here for the duo, but they aren't stepping up to do it quite yet.
Yeah, I think with DNK currently clearing cards, just still maybe not having a perfect track on that Malphite ultimate, unsure. Feeling a little bit unsafe to step up against him a little too far under tower. But as it is, it's going to work out just a little bit slow. Nothing really being traded on either side of the map. It's actually going to be in a rotation into the mid lane from Cerberus to try and maybe find a pick onto Dia, find some pressure into these mid lane plates. But
yeah, I mean,
can be matched.
After everything is said and done, the only thing that really ends up kind of getting traded off is that you get this Raptor camp in exchange for bot wave that just got dumped. And Artemis is going to come down and catch kind of the residual of this bot wave that got shoved in by Emperor. They're going to go back to normal, say, lane assignment, so like the Zeri and the... Okay, this is the other trade-off, is this plate that ends up going over. In fact, actually, it might be more than 1 plate. So somehow and in some way, it looked like SPTCE got caught up in their own little world right there for a 1/10 of a second, and they said, hey, let's make a bot swap, let's try to play towards topside, let's try to get plates against Pun, don't drop it. And they actually just fumbled 2 plates in topside to the Malphite and a plate in bot side, as well as a free camp going over to the side of Drakthar in exchange for the 1 wave. That's going to be Palette, and it's going to be the Vi jumping onto Drakthar as they find him on the rotation on his red buff. There was warding that was traded off. Maybe that was the intended play the whole time, but
Yeah, it looks like initially they wanted to try and make a play onto Drakthar earlier on that top side, but now they ended up rotating it all back around. They fumbled the rotations a little bit and lose 2, but getting that kill back will recover it quite quickly with this Rift Herald drop. They pick up 1, they can pick up a couple more with ease, as my feet freezes a little bit. Okay, no doubt.
That's a hook underneath the tower. Slater is going to get ulted as Artemis is trying to put some additional damage in, but Palette blocking very effectively as it's going to be 3 plates getting dropped off the bottom tower. Ends up being a worthwhile trade. Yato's here as well, but not likely to be able to find much. Here comes Drakthar too. It's going to be
Has to
jumping
dash the
in, trying
tower.
to find something. That's going to be a hook coming down from Ron OP. A little bit of damage traded back onto Yato, onto Ron OP as well. Palette's very low. There's Drakthar jumping in onto Slater. Slater's almost certainly dead. That's one. Now Artemis wants to throw down damage, has the traps out, has to force the flash out of DNK, because that's going to be one going down. Now Artemis has to push here to maybe try to pull a second tower play. DNK is going to hang around for a 1/10 of a second, but there's not the health bar, because it should be an additional wave. DNK's stuck around. He's going to stop Drakthar from backing, not paying attention, asleep at the wheel. And so because of that, DNK gets a trade kill.
Yeah, with that, it actually comes out positive for the side of SBTC as DS just able to take out 2 plates in the mid lane by himself. It's a 1-for-1 kill, yet sits a shutdown onto Slater, so that's a nice bit of gold going over to, I think it was Yato picking that up, but regardless, it is... Actually, no, it wouldn't be Yato, it'd be Drakthar, so that's coming out pretty good as... Oh, okay, another...
Warren ultimates. There's a flash. That's going to be a stun, and that's just going to be a dead combination, or a dead Ahri, as Yato gets jumped on by the side of SBTC's top laner. And another dragon going over to this team. For a minute there, it looked like Cerberus had some counterplay, but here's what I'm guessing happened. I'm guessing SBTC, after that really weird kind of topside fumble, their fullest intent was to try to make a play on bot side towards that bottom lane to get like plates or to try to push back Artemis and Ron OP. They happened to find Drakthar by happens chance on a ward in their red side jungle, and because of that, that's why DNK was able to go in and find just like a free kill, then set up that bot side push, and then the aggression from Cerberus bringing in Yato off the roam against DO1, bringing back in Drakthar after the kill reset, ended up winning. It was a positive play, but again, the issue is that if Drakthar hadn't gone down and he was able to kind of shadow for Artemis, they would have picked up an additional plate, maybe 2 additional plates on that bottom tower, and everything goes fine. Instead, DNK picks up a kill, shoves Artemis away from that, and then Yato is stuck in a weird position where there's 2 people that are off the map late, there's no jungler to help support you, and Emperor is just like, hey, what if I just roam mid lane and we try to make a play here against this Ahri? And what do you know, it works out really effectively. So the entire map crumbling all at once here to the side of SBTC off of Cerberus, trying to salvage some kind of play from this original Rift Herald shift that they set up.
Yeah, you only really ended up trading for it some extra damage, some extra plates onto Pun overall. So, and with the Ornn staying pretty close, he's pretty much even in CS, he's still on pretty much that same item break point of the Sunfire Cave. It doesn't actually matter all that much, as long as you can make sure that Pun can't really get that follow-up damage through if he ults onto Slater. But that's because that's the only real threat you have to worry about right now. But if Braum just stands on top, it's going to be ult in and then a very quick stun up and run away for the Zeri, you would imagine. So now second Rift Herald, it's looking to be the play. Currently, it's inside track for Cerberus. They kind of need this win. They've already lost they're already bleeding out about 4,000 gold down. This will be a nice little boon in their pocket, and with objective bounties in there, it'll be even nicer. So I'm a little bit surprised that there's no contest at all, not even a poke in from SBTC, given the extra gold onto that objective. But
I mean, why risk any amount of the gold? Again, this is a team that scales well. You've got Zeri's range. You still have like a ton of damage on BO1 that's going to be coming out. You still have Warren itemization, and they're up 2 dragons. Like, worst case, they can sit here for the next 20 minutes of this game and not be really all that worried about a Dragon Soul coming through. Mountain Dragons are going to make it more difficult to try to make him play this game out. But again, by the time Orm items come through, like that Dragon Soul is going to be mostly neutralized by that bit of advantage. And it means eventually that like Slater's still going to be super strong. A lot of members of this team are going to be super strong. So why coin flip? I mean, there's no reason to. Let him have that. Let him have a tower with it. Let him take a whole tower. Take mid tower. Take top tower with the Rift Herald. Who cares? I mean, they're in a fine position to just sit and wait in this game, especially if they can bait out like a Rift Herald play that takes, if Cerberus says, hey, we're going to put this top or mid, and then you have to respond by going away from Dragon, they can just say, nah, like, you have the tower, we'll take the Dragon, we'll leverage this into a potential soul point, we'll make you fight us on our turf, or at minimum, we'll just sit and scale for the next, again, 15 minutes for absolutely nothing. Without any response from you. So it's up to Cerberus to figure out what their job is. And I want to know what you think. What is Cerberus's job in this? Because right now, they're on a track to lose this game.
So currently, your main goal is to try and get some kind of get some kind of use out of this Rift Herald. Ideally, you can find a push into the mid lane. Group up as 5, utilize that range from the Jinx rockets to try and break up open that mid lane turret. Gets you a nice bounty of gold, gets you access into the enemy jungle a little bit easier. Allows you to play a little bit more aggressive, and it also requires SBTC to make bigger risks to attack you. So that's the ideal. The free gold on the top side is always the option if your Rift Herald management, if you can't find the best, the ideal angle, and you just need that free gold. So that'll be good. But with Dragon coming up and spawning right now, you can use this. You can bring everybody in close, try and break that open, force SBTC to sort of back off away from this river control, and pick yourself up a dragon on top of it if everything goes according to plan, which might not. But now we're seeing Yado arrive, we're seeing Pun grouping back up, so this looks to be the play.
Okay, it's very obvious what Cerberus are doing right now is, okay, they're going to find a pull on a Palette. They're going to get trapped up, even with the shield that Palette's taking a solid amount of damage. Draktar pops the Cyclone in an attempt to get him on the back way through. Ornn ultimate's basically, it's only going to find the one as its Draktar gets caught up. Now, Emperor basically stuck in no man's land, going to find all the damage that they need. Actually, great positioning by Pun, who's going to find a couple with that ultimate as well, as that's a big team fight deal. One's going to go down. Now the Vi ultimate trying to find a bit of damage onto Yado, a little bit more. Slater, Palette kind of pushed out the backside of the fight, as it's still going to be Pun getting aggressed against by the side of DNK. Slater very low right now, as that's now going to be a push up into the mid lane. The Rift Herald helped out that push quite a bit, as a one fight from Cerberus comes out of nowhere, and now they should be able to grab up mid tower and Dragon, which will help them extensively in this game.
Yeah, the Rift Herald play was actually really great. It was a huge fumble by SBT, a huge scatter moment. They did not know what they were trying to achieve there, and it's going to be. Well, I don't think it went exactly as planned, but it worked out perfectly, because the Rift Herald drops, Emperor goes for the flank, and the rest of SBTC tries to kill the Herald, but they don't even. But Pun's re-engage last second keeps the Herald alive. It gets the charge, which means even though the fight is won because Dia goes down here off of Pun's ultimate, they can actually convert into the tower and pick up the dragon instead of just having a health bar on the tower. That would mean they'd only have to be able to settle for one.
Yeah, it's about as winning a situation as you could ever hope for. And again, to me, the positioning of Pun is what really did it right there. SBTC couldn't really step up to help out their top laner in any way, because if they did, Pun was going to all 4 of them without having to burn Flash or without having to burn any sort of summoner spell, which is insane value for the Malphite ultimate, that even if you end up don't getting any support from the rest of your team, which was clearly not going to be the case, they're going to be able to kill both and support that fight. But even if you only get the 4, you end up trading 1 for 1 with the health bar differences between the two teams. It was going to be really hard for SBTCE to contest that dragon anyway. So again, they pulled off. They were like, hey, we can't really tank the Pun ultimate. Pun goes for it anyway. They end up finding a couple kills on the back end, finding the dragon. And it's still not the perfect position for Cerberus. They're down 2,000 gold. But again, at least they found something to fight back with. It was a really, really amazing kind of setup to get them back in even argument or discussion for this game.
Yeah, they found a lot of map pressure, a lot of control, and about 2,000 gold in it. And it was actually possible because of Dia going for this Luden's Echo. He wanted to be a big threat Artemis has to contend with, but as a result, he didn't have a stopwatch in that last fight. He didn't have the extra health of that Rod of Ages that we typically see, so he was actually a viable assassination target for Pun. And they jumped him in, they found him, and now it's an angle for Cerberus to try and get back into it. We're gonna see a little bit of a lull state right now, but it's pressure coming in from the side lanes for the side of Cerberus. They are currently controlling the map extremely well. And another pick onto Palette.
If Palette can't go anywhere, trapped up, hooked up. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You're just gonna hand another kill to Artemis. Like, there's nothing else to be said right there. As Palette kind of got left behind. If I had to take a wild guess, I'm guessing Slater had to slide away, and there wasn't much that the Braum was able to do to follow. So you don't have that same kind of range. And now they're gonna walk at Baron, as there's a bunch of wards down, but you can't replace any of them, as you don't have your number one kind of ward carrier here on the map with the support. You also don't have the Braum to be able to block a lot of that CC we were talking about for Slater, which means it's going to be difficult. No cleanse means he's susceptible to the RE charm, susceptible to Rod OP. and no ultimates burnt either. So you do have a bit of a chance. That's going to be a stun up. That's going to be a trap lineup as well, as Emperor can't really do much. They're going to go for the play afterwards. This is going to be Pun brought back into the rest of the team. Warn ultimates going to get pulled, but the Ornhorn is not going to be able to be recalled to throw through the rest of the team. Is this 2 kills to the side of Cerberus as they continue to fight back, Mobby. Gold leads down to less than 1,000.
Yeah, that was a very, very good bold play coming out from Cerberus, but Emperor kind of hands them that kill that they were actually there to look for, and now Pun's gonna back up, get his mythic, and they are just crawling their way back forward. Play into the mid lane though. Should net SBTC a tower, but Tibbers is not gonna have quite enough to kill Artemis. As SBTC, they are not gonna just let it go completely. They're gonna get in there, gain control over the Baron Pit once again, and still try and fight back for control of this map. They still have a dragon advantage. They still have a small gold advantage. They should still be okay taking fights, but they just need to be a little bit more careful of these hooks from Ron OP, catching Paulette where he's not meant to be.
And I'm curious where a lot of this gold advantage is actually at. If I'm looking through itemization, I mean, right now at least, I'm not seeing where specifically it would be. You clearly have like the 50 CS advantage. Actually, would you look at that? I do really love our production team. Slater currently leads over top of Artemis by about 500 gold, something like that. And this was the big difference. Is the DO1 difference is what I was really looking at, which is shocking because the items don't show until right now when he actually gets that Hextech alternator, and that is the big difference between DO1 and Yato at this point in the game. But that Annie's range has clearly been a bit of a deterrent here for Annie to be able to step up into the pocket, so harder to utilize that damage as DO1 in this game. And I think that's copped up a couple of times. Not to mention, Cerberus, usually really known for kind of pick or for team fighting, not accustomed to seeing them utilize these pick tools so effectively. Ron OP and Pun have been doing a great job at just finding individual members who are out of position and punishing them crazily. As now we've got this weird split. SBTCE has kind of the track to go right to Baron. They've got mid lane control at the moment, but Cerberus walking directly to Dragon, calling their bluff, saying you're not going to be able to do this. And now they've got river control. Pun has a flank on the side. DNK is going to find him. So that should be an easy dragon pickup. Nothing there. Cerberus doesn't really lose much health. They don't lose many resources. Instead, they're just here ready to go. That's an ultimate onto DNK. Now it's going to be a rocket and a kill from Artemis. And now things are going to get started up here as that's a drive-in from Drakthar trying to find something. Or ultimate's going to go through the majority of the team. But now Artemis is going to get excited as he's got to find damage on multiple members here. Artemis is going to drop a rocket in one position. That's going to be an Imper kind of jumping onto the front line as DO1's going to get stunned up. Everybody else, a lot of members here from the side of Cerberus were brought down. The Tippers is driving Artemis out of the fight. Finally gets leashed as that's going to drag him away just as Artemis was feeling the threat. As just SBTC walks away unscathed despite losing a member at the front end. The damage was there. Everybody got clustered and DO1 punished effectively as finally they get some breathing room.
Oh yeah, actually SBTC kind of cleaning up on the back front. I thought it was going much worse for them as I saw them as the bear snapped away. I was like, oh no, they needed that kill on Artemis, but no, turns out they didn't. Even with Slater going down, they could not cut through Emperor, and they turned out to win that fight, pick up another tower. They do lose the dragon though, so let's actually see how this plays out. It starts with DNK being completely cut off, but it's 2 big ultimates down that they don't have for this fight. And despite Slater being in a rough position, it's a huge ultimate over the entire team for Emperor, and then he gets to just sort of stand in the middle, put in a decent amount of work with his Sunfire Cape as Tibbers really does the dirty work. Dia playing, keeping safe with the Azonias, and it's just the bear slapping them around.
Yeah, in that fight again, DO1, Tibbers actually did probably the most damage of anybody, or very close to the most damage. But Emperor's damage was also really good. Like, Emperor did so much work inside of that fight. I'm curious why they pulled the trigger on the side of Cerberus. I know they had an angle for Artemis to be able to kind of deliver auto attacks, and they were down a whole member, but they had just burnt their biggest teamfight initiation in Pun, and then of course it was the second Drakthar Cyclone that really got his team into the right position, which means they were down a lot of their kind of initial front-facing engagement before the fight even really kicked off. Again, I don't think it was necessarily a bad play. I think grand scheme of things, picking up the dragon was probably the big boon here, because that means it's going to be even harder to try to kill Artemis as this game continues to tick forward. But nonetheless, there's another ultimate. Is they're going to try to find something. That's a bit of a pick onto Emperor. Emperor doesn't step on the trap line. That's just a dead Pun. Like, I don't know. That was a bold call to say the least there, Pun, but he's going to fall down to the side of SBTCE.
Yeah, that was a solo onto the tank. Slater didn't even have to flash away from it or anything. That sure was a decision. And now
Okay.
that's going to be a pretty easy Baron start. Dia just has to go find and check Drakthar. Oh, never mind. It's DNK who's going to do that.
Yeah, Drakthar is going to get brought down on the backside of the pit. The Cyclone was not able to get him out. The Clone was not able to get him out. And now the members of Cerberus are scattered to the wind here as they're going to try to grab bottom tower. They're going to grab up what necessary resources they can, any amount of gold that they can, as now SE back in control of this game, back up about 4,000 gold. They're going to be able to clean up a couple of towers here, as well as Slater is going to be able to get quite a bit of juice here. Already up a little bit over top Artis, not a ton, probably like half an item or something like that. Now it's probably going to be closer to a full item after this Baron buff goes over to the squad, making it a lot harder to contest for these dragons, especially the one in about a minute and a half. It should easily go to the side of SBTCE.
Yeah, and that 4 items is actually going to look to start building that. Probably going to look to start building that armor penetration. So this double Mountain Drake Malphite is not going to feel quite as tanky as he should. We saw how long it took for him to die in what was essentially a 1v5. But now he's not even going to be able to sit there and buy time with his health bar. Or, well, at least once the items start to come through from Slater, still looking for that reset S. Just a cheeky DNK moment. Gonna take that. Gonna keep setting up the spot lane wave. Make sure they can get the Baron buff to try and crack open a little bit more. They unfortunately already took the tower. Unfortunately for them, they took the mid lane in a tower. So that sort of 3-1, that sort of 4-1 in the mid jungle mid bot lane can't quite play out exactly the way they want it to and get maximum priority, and as a result, it's going to end up being traded on the top side by Yano.
Yes. Here's the push up into mid lane. That's going to be a bit of a play on a pun, but it's not going to lead to too much. Slater instead just focusing on the tower, the remaining members here to zone them off, and with that, mid inhibitor tower going to get cracked. Mid inhibitor probably going to get cracked before having to retreat to the dragon anytime soon. Using the most of this Baron buff, I think, is the right play here. I think if they had gone direct to dragon, they would have been wasting a lot of the potential that this buff had, as they've already taken the gold lead up to about 3,000. I kind of would have loved to see if they could have cracked this bot in inhibitor tower at minimum, but again, I think if you overreach for it, you end up giving up members, you end up giving up the dragon. The game has a lot more counterplay for Cerberus, so just kind of turning tail, saying, hey, we don't have time for this, we're not going to worry about this, instead turning for their to me, what is the true objective of the game at this point is both teams' win condition seems to now be the dragon soul as it goes on. That's going to have complete control here for the side of SBTCE. Even if they have to fight around it, they're up 5k. They have a better marksman at the moment. The front line's feeling better. Ornn items are also very much in swing, as I think we're really close to getting almost every member onto full Ornn itemization that you would ever need. SBTCE is starting to run away with this one.
Yeah, just waiting for Palette now. Which, it's not. If you actually go through the itemization, the tier list, getting that support item done earlier is more efficient, but it doesn't really matter. It's just waiting for a little bit more gold, a little bit more experience rather on Twemper, as I get a freezy screen.
I am also frozen right now, so do not worry.
Okie dokie. Now I have a blank screen, so I can't even create a mini map. Hold on. All right, let's have a looky here. We're seeing, so with the dragon gone, rotation's gonna have to be made up to the top side. That's what they're currently trying to do, and not trying to knock down this last outer tower, and that is okay. That's exactly what the only option left really for the side of SBTC. They've got Annie slowly pushing on the bot side.
Here we go. A bit of a fight starting things off, as that's going to be initial pick. Guardian Angel now down here for the Zeri. A bit of Ornn ultimate kind of being thrown through, but nobody's put any pressure onto Artemis. There's going to be Pun going down on the front line. Slater's able to kind of kick out to everywhere else. There's not going to be too much damage left. They could defend this tower. Nice hook somehow fitting between that little space. It's not going to be anything too crazy, as you still have plenty of health bar left. They have to go back and defend their base. That's what's really under duress right now on the side of Cerberus. They're able to burn the Guardian Angel. That was a positive thing. That is at least one tool down here for the side of SBTCE. Even though they're going to be able to clean up this top tower, shouldn't be too much else going down in theory. As you do have Pun and Dragfire down. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe actually there's full 5 members here from the side of SPTCE. They should have more than enough to be able to at least bring down another inhibitor. That's a massive... Oh, I don't know. I don't even know how he hits that. Emperor comes out of nowhere, finds a pillar, finds a knock-up on all 3 members. And that's just the death sentence right then and right there as SPTCE putting their foot down. Maybe one last hold here for the side of Cerberus because they've got Dragfire back. They're going to have Pun back. They don't have Artemis. That's going to be Yada going down to the primary damage dealers, which is completely out of this fight. Here comes Slater back into the fight after re-entering, healing up a bit on the way. It just doesn't matter. Like, they're playing with their food at this point. SPTCE, despite getting challenged a bit in the mid-game by the side of Cerberus, eventually they end up making things work. No pick tools can dig Cerberus out of the hole that they had at the beginning of this game. And with that, they're going to be taking game number 1 of our last series before the finals.
Yeah, it turns out a lot of it was all an elaborate ruse. We didn't actually need Slater for a lot of it. Dia was actually pumping out a lot of damage. The front line was doing a lot of work, and as it was, the game set scale, and they got to very, very high item numbers. And once they got there, it seemed like even though Slater stepped right forward and got Ada Malphite ultimate immediately and got blown up into Guardian Angel, they still couldn't win the fight, which was started as a 4v5 even with Annie having to TP in. So, I think they knew their draft. They knew their draft angle. They played it out quite well. And while there was that one fumble and that Cerberus set up and played around the mid lane Rift Herald very well, that got them a couple of dragons, got them back into it. It was still a nice, clean game for the most part by SPTC.
It was a game that necessitated pick for Cerberus to be able to kind of fight back in that mid lane. And while they did it a lot better than I thought they were going to be able to, fact was, again, if they end up taking the hyper late game against this side of SPTCE, you saw the results. You saw what happened right there. As their front line would get shredded, and there was no way for Artemis to put in enough damage. No way for Yada to put in enough damage. So now, walking into game 2, they've got things to fix. Our analyst desk will break this one down a little bit further after just a couple minutes break. We'll be right back.
And we're back here on the desk with my cameras a little bit off center. Things aren't just happening right as they are happening for CES, unfortunately. Let's throw things into a quick recap as to what happened in the last game before we head on to our endless desk segment. If we could get that up real fast. And poof, there we go. Not the most favorable game for CES as SBTC takes the first game of the series and we can see damage dealt to champions. Surprisingly, a whole bunch from Malphite, unsurprisingly for Jinx when the start of CES, and lots coming out from Dia One's Annie. Right, as somebody who hasn't really kept up with the VCS the split, I have a few statements that I'd like our desk here to react to. And I want you guys to rank in terms of how well do these statements define the VCS today. Okay, so statement number 1. Aggressive support and jungle linking. So support and jungle holding hands, running around the map to find picks. How much do you think that defines the VCS in comparison to these two next statements? Second one, lots of action in the mid lane, even when there's no objective to fight for. And the third one, 25 kills in 32 minutes. Okay? So first one, aggressive support jungle linking. Second, lots of action in the mid lane. And the third statement, 25 kills in 32 minutes. How would you order how well these statements describe the VCS? From least to most.
I would say the least is 25 kills in 35 minutes because I feel that's a bit on the low side.
I agree.
Very slow early game. Maybe the split it's a little bit more accurate, but it's still a bit low to traditional VCS. Fights in the mid lane, linking up with the supports and jungles. Some and some. I think the supports also like to wander off and do their own things. Link up with mid laners and top laners and have a bit of fun. So not necessarily them working together as a duo so much as both just trying to be everywhere on the map all at once individually, and that will link them up a couple times. And then third, fights over nothing in the mid lane. If I could be a little bit more specific, I'd say red buff is around red buff pits. That's where the real juice is. But mid lane is a great number 2 for random action.
So within the central diamond of the map, how about you, Quincy? How would you rate those three things? Any difference from what Marby has put forward?
That's kind of the boring answer, but I actually fully agree with Marby on that one. It's like actually the exact same order that I would put. It's just especially like in this game, what we have seen was like the jungle support linking was something that Draktar was kind of made victim of, as we have seen him just getting camped out as his own red buff with the Braum Vi combination just to CC chain can kill the Wukong before he can even use his warrior trickster for the first time, which was very unfortunate for him. And I think in this game we have seen a lot of that one. And I gotta tell you though, like it's a testament of the VCS in general that these low kill kind of games are getting more common in recent times. Like VCS has been known to have like more like 50 kills in 30 minutes. Now it's going closer to the 25 mark, and that's something that in general is a delight to see. And I mean all those random as mid lane fights that we have seen in general. Of course, also a testament to what Cerberus was drafting in the first game.
Well, I just want to touch a little bit more on the point. Do you think there's a moment of enlightenment for these teams, or was there a particular shift in the meta, or a particular set of champions that were introduced that made these teams realize that, hey, maybe we shouldn't be fighting all the time, or was there a shift in, say, or perhaps a realization macro-wise, or is it perhaps some of the coaching stuff being implementing some ideas that might have changed the ideas and the way that the VCS is a little bit less bloody these days?
I think it might be a draft shift actually, because they tend to draft more conventional in general in recent times, especially going for those high pick carries in the bot lane, also going like for more tank options in the top lane, where just scaling seems to be like the best option for both teams in this situation. I mean, we had Jinx versus Zeri this game and Malphite versus Ornn on the top side, where just both teams don't really want to go for these skirmishes as much as they would in the earlier days. And this might be a reason because for that could be that they had more international experience recently, with both Garmin, Sagan, and Buffalo going to Worlds, and also Sagan and Buffalo going to MSI beforehand, with Coach Rem, who weirdly enough is on SBTC right now. Maybe just drilling it into them that this is how the game should be played, and all the other VCS teams adapting towards that style, and it has also shown some success within the region itself.
So the cooldown economy was something that we talked a lot about in the past, where it's a question of when do our cooldowns come up and comparison to when the opponent's cooldowns are unavailable. And that's perhaps one of my theories as to why the VCS was so bloody, was that a lot of these teams were operating under the philosophy of cooldown economy, and they would be willing to take fights simply because they had cooldowns and their opponents did not. So I do believe that we have a replay lineup around the team fight in the mid lane. With these discussions about how bloody the VCS is, we talked a little bit about action in the mid lane. Quincy, why don't you break down this replay for us and talk a little bit about what was one of the key moments in the previous game?
Gladly I will do that. SBF one replay and if that's like in this whole game, which was a drag stomp by the side of SBTC, this was one of the few moments where it actually went kind of well for the side of Cerberus with them fighting on the mid lane. This should be the moment where they just go for this Rift Herald charge. They are already down 2 Drakes, and just now, as the third Drake is now closing out, TP on towards the mid lane to just have all this overload on the mid lane in general, and for the reaction out of SBTC, with them just now going for Yado's Ari being right here. The Rift Herald charge should happen as just now. We see the hook landing from the side of 1 OP. The fight is now ensured, and also another TP onto the mid lane for Pan at the Malphite, and also the reaction TP from Enpa in the back lane. And now Enpa's kind of lost on the map. He just goes for the Forge God, but he's caught up by the whole squad from Cerberus Esports, while the rest of SPTC, the chickens can't really follow up onwards him. Enpa tries his best to get out, but he can just get focused down, and this is just a free kill donated to the side of Cerberus Esports. Rift Herald charge also coming out, and they also catch DR1 in the midst of it. While here we see Artemis just chasing down with the rockets, forcing the flash from Slater, and also later on with the zap landing and another rocket over to the side, where he just also drops down the shield bow. That Cerberus just now finds an angle to go for the third wake, kind of stabilizing the game on their own terms, and this was just one of those situations where SPTC, they were on the scaling competition. They didn't really need to force anything, and they just felt forced because Cerberus was overloading so much into this mid lane situation. And they could have just dropped this one turret for getting a Drake fight later on, but they just wanted too much, and this is very VCS-esque, I just gotta say.
And this is something that we see the LPL teams do sometimes as well, where they're willing to take a losing fight in the mid lane just simply to blow the big cooldowns on the opponent side. Especially when we're seeing all these big champions like Malphite and Wukong, the value of a flash. So once again, going back to this concept of cooldown economy, I want to hear Mabi's thoughts on this, right? If you were in the side of SBTC and you're saying that, okay, we have blown the flashes on everybody except for Jinx now. They don't really have the ability to engage in us. We can then immediately force Baron when it spawns, where there's 3 more minutes before the flashes come off cooldown. Do you think that this is a repeatable pattern that teams could be looking at using in the VCS?
I think it definitely could be. I would definitely try and I would aim to say, like, if this is where in the past where you sort of have those fights over nothing, you're trying to force it's the standard thing of trying to force a cooldown, try and force an ultimate, force a flash before an objective. Having it sort of happen as the objective is spawning, have that big fight go off there. You kind of have to decide ahead of time that that's what you're going for, in which case maybe you're just sacrificing Enpa, letting him die so you can clean up the Rift Herald and then push in as a 4-man unit into the Dragon Pit against a team with who have expended a lot of cooldowns. But what they did there, they sort of weren't quite sure if they wanted to help Emperor out or not. So in the end, it meant that DR1 steps too far forward. He finds a Malphite ult to the face, and Emperor, of course, is just not quite tanky yet at this point in the game. So it was a bit of a misread, but it's definitely something I see the teams doing quite a bit.
Right, and now on to more mini games with Jensen. A little bit of a segment here. 3 moments I enjoyed. Let's guess from the least to most enjoyment. First moment, 8 minutes Rift Herald rotation from SPTC, where they could drop down its jungle and secure the Rift Herald for themselves. That's moment number 1. Moment number 2 is the Rift Herald from being then dropped in the bot lane. The first Rift Herald being dropped in the bot lane to give 2 plates over to Slater. And the third one is Dia getting solo killed, but all chatting at the end of the game, mid-gap, as he takes down the Nexus.
I wasn't quite aware of that all chat, but I'm gonna.
I don't think we all chatted, but that's the gist of it. You know, DR1 gets solo killed, but wins the game anyways.
Yeah. I feel like the solo kill into Dia carry might be a low actually. I might rank that second, and then I don't know. I think the Rift Herald play at minute 8 was a nice clean one. I think that appeals to Jensen's coach nature. So I might put that first, and then that means the play bot is last.
How about you, Crincy?
Mhm. I would actually put the mid lane solo kill up to the first side because it was what made the game like remotely interesting. But in general, it was SPTC kind of slowly stomping servers. But there was like at least Yado, while being down 40 CS in the mid lane, even the longer one of things, at least like getting a little bit of a W over there. And aside from that, it was basically DR1 deservedly and rightfully so claiming mid gap in the all chat later on. So I think that's for me like the first one. And I think the Rift Herald rotation at the Rift Herald itself to even secure this one in the first place is more important than the way they actually use the Rift Herald. I mean, it being dropped on for Slater to just kind of nullify a potential Slater Artemis gap was a smart decision, but in general, just going for the Rift Herald is what I would want to reward over there. So I have those two swap, but in general, I agree with the notion of Mabi, of course.
Right, and with that, I actually have to say that Krinsky has it correct. I actually enjoyed the 0-1 winning the game despite getting solo killed, as it proves one of my strange Jensenisms correct. The laning phase doesn't matter, draft is a lie, and itemizations are fake. But draft isn't a complete lie, as we're headed into draft. This time around, Slater on the Xayah. We talked about Kai'Sa. The alternative to that was the Xayah. How much of a signature break is this? Why don't you run me through what's happening in this draft?
So it's going to be a bit of a different look. The Jinx has definitely been a big pick in this playoff so far, but Xayah coming in, it looks like they have a different strategy in mind for the side of SPTC, but Cerberus going to just kind of keep to the same thing. Wukong banned this time around, so they're going to just quickly pick up the V8 go instead and try and play to a bit more of comfort for Drakthar. So it's a very comfortable champion for him, but more or less at the moment, it's sort of keeping everything the same. And, oh, no,
I think
SPTC is doing the same thing again.
Yeah, they are. Same with Jungle Duo. What I kind of think is funny here, I think Slater is picking Xayah, so Artemis doesn't pick Xayah. And Artemis is picking Jinx, so Slater doesn't get to pick Jinx. So they kind of take away each other in this situation. Because we have seen in this first game, right, there was Artemis on the Jinx. He was doing fine, but it wasn't as excellent as Slater was yesterday on the series against Garm, where, of course, itemization is something we can argue about, but itemization is fake anyway, as Jensen rightfully pointed out earlier. So that's a different topic either way. And we see a different pick for Yado this time with the Lissandra, and I like that because as long as it looks like game one, he loses lane anyway, so might as well pick a champion that can impact the side lanes more.
And of course, the push should go to Lissandra's into Lissandra's way against the Annie, and we saw the Yari having a bit of lane prior originally in the earlier levels, but couldn't quite capitalize on it. Might find a bit more success with this Lissandra, which has been a menace in these playoffs, but now support seems to be the focus of the bans on both sides. As we forgot to mention it, Huber is in, has a bit more variety to the champion pool than Ronopi, and has also been a very strong voice for this team. Allowed them to get a huge comeback against Wales in the series, with him subbing in and playing some immaculate Rakan in a game 5 situation. So it's gonna be a bit of an interesting one to look at. See how Huber can turn this team around and maybe get them off to a better start.
Absolutely,
Now,
and with these support bans, I think they might just go for Fresh on the side of Cerberus, but they actually disproved me instantly, going for the Blitzcrank and denying a potential Fresh from the other side. Rakan, of course, also being taken away, so there's no Lovers Duel come out. So now let's wait and see what the chickens have left in store.
Oh, we're back. Okay. Something went wrong.
Back to the desk, but I do believe that Silas has been locked in for his BTC.
Okay, so yeah, can you take a quick look? It is in fact Silas. Yep, that's a pick. I think is a pretty solid answer into the Lissandra. Can be a real pain to try and set up plays in the mid lane against. Can also be a wait. Hang on. So this does
Wait.
So yeah, it's any support.
It flex any support, yes. They do. That's interesting because it just now means you might want to hook in the Annie to just instantly kill her, but as long as she's like the Molten Shield and still is like on level 6, she can just instantly tempest into your face, and it might actually be a bad idea to hook in the Annie. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, so to say. And I like SPTC kind of flexing around just to deny also a potential Malphite for Pun, and he just now opted for the Rumble, which is of course a new champion for him.
Yeah, the Rumble's a pretty decent pick into the Cannon matchup. So we're gonna have to see how that plays out. We're also gonna have to see what build Enpo wants to go towards. There have been quite a few floating around, and this has resulted in a very interesting draft setup for the side of SPTC. Lots of big engaged potential coming out for solo laners this time around, as Slater's going to take a bit more of a backseat role on the Sire. Not going to be able to put out quite as much teamfight AoE damage, but as a hyper carry, but should be a big presence in the mid game. Should be a safe AD carry to put out damage required.
So let's get a quick summary of both drops on both sides. Let's quickly run through the win conditions. What do you think is the adaptation and the win condition from the side of CES? Trincy, go.
I think SPTC this time has a more conventional draft, and it should be like on the more winning on paper one. But the side of Cerberus is interesting because they just now subbed in Huber. He is on the Blitzcrank, and if he gets one good catch, he's of course a player to watch, as he can start the reset city for the side of Cerberus with them having Jinx, Diego, also the Lissandra with the passage to some extent. So that's definitely something that could be a scary prospect, especially with all those slowing fields from the Frozen Force coming out and the Equalizer on top of that. So as long as they get picks, I think Cerberus can have it. But in the more conventional, if this game goes like even towards the mid game, I would favor SPTC here to go up 2-0.
And what's the consensus in that, Marby?
Yeah, I feel this is going to be a bit of a how well can Yado and Draxar bounce back? Can they get this mid jungle duo rolling? Otherwise, I feel it could be another impressive showing from the side of SPTC.
Right, go Chickens as we throw it over to the casters as we're headed on to Summoners Rift.
Welcome back, everybody, as we're jumping on to game number 2 between SPTCE and Cerberus Esports. And once again, I have to ask you the all-important question: who in the hell does Huber think he is? What is this guy, Sora? Was it? No one's allowed to play Blitzcrank, okay? Every time I've said it, nobody has ever been able to make it work. This isn't Sora, bro. He thinks he's him, but he's not.
We had that big game. We had that B game where he pretended to be Sora for a little bit, and it looked very good.
It did, but then what happened?
All right.
That's right.
That wasn't the Blitzcrank's fault. All right. This is gonna be a bit of a damage onto DO1. That's gonna make comes at a really good time because he can't actually just reset early on, and playing melee into this matchup is gonna be a pain. And there's also the ward onto this, so DNK is gonna be spotted out. What is?
I know we don't have a desk. Yeah, I know we don't have a desk that really has too much appreciation for itemization and builds, but it could be a Heartsteel Kennen coming out here in this game, which would be an absolute banger of a build to show up in our game, as it could also lead to. Honestly, it's a very strange decision to go for. This was a really wacky draft coming out from SPTCE with like the Annie Flex, now the Heartsteel, and Sora himself throwing himself at Palette here.
Yeah, the E-Star from Palette means that he's gonna survive a little bit, but he doesn't actually have any. Oh no, he had a Q. Wait, okay, he had Q, but he didn't.
Oh, Drakthar gets to play against DNK. DNK gonna have to flash over the wall. Drakthar's not gonna follow. There we go. Okay. Cerberus stepping into a lot more comfort. They've got themselves like mid lane. They've got themselves something good for Pun. Draktar's back on his #1 jungler. I mean, this is already the hook and the stolen jungle, the flash from DNK. Cerberus starting off on a better foot.
Yeah, they have made SPTC's life misery in this first stage, and most of it is coming out of Pun. Put Dio onto half health to start the lane phase.
To start things off, there we go. Jump onto Artemis as Slater's gonna look for a kill. He's gonna find it too, as that's first blood down in the bot lane. Not sure what happened. I'm guessing level 2, maybe a pull from Blitzcrank caused a bit of issue. We'll have to see on the replay whether or not that was actually the case, because I'm guessing what happened is the pull came in from Huber and accidentally at the level 2, Palette had the W readily available, stunned up Artemis, forced out the sums, and that's how Slater was able to catch him on the backside.
Yeah, ends up being a good move here. Now Palette being able to roam.
Okay.
Dracula
Yeah.
will be able to sneak away with his misty powers, and that means DNK gets to recover a little bit depending. Oh no, this
okay. Now there's no way to get out of this one. Well played by Yada. They're also going to block the wall to make sure DNK can't get away. They haven't killed him yet, but there we go. Okay, that's going to be it. Now the Vi has the cooldowns. Going to have quite a bit of CC to work with here. Has no way to get out of the Vi body, though, if the cooldowns aren't there. And DL1's going to clean up 2 kills. DL1 was sacrificed to the Wolves. Half health to start this game, and now walks away with an easy back timer with 2 kills in tow. It should have been an early game that went the way of Cerberus. Goodness gracious. Here it is. Was it the play? No, they actually just ran at Artemis.
Yeah, they just run at him. They get him low, and then Annie with the flash double stun sets it up so Slater can finish it off pretty well. And then the mid lane dive, then the mid lane shenanigans happened. Annie being there in position first, the bot lane pressure coming out of that play actually ended up turning everything around because DMK should have been in hell. He had his Gromp stolen in front of him. He had to be forced back early. He got collapsed on right there by the 2v2, but the Molten Shield from Annie managed to keep him alive long enough that it gave, and also deal enough damage to Yada that it was an easy cleanup on the back end by Dia. And I guess even if Dia did go down, it would have been a kill back to Palette given how close that was. So it was just everything coming up SBTC at the back end, and now Pun's in trouble.
Oh, very much so in trouble. Is trying to save a bit of something. There's a TP coming in underneath. Pun flashes behind DNK to try to get away from something. Yada's going to be able to stun some people up underneath the tower. Emperor just barely gets away as Yada's going to be able to clean up at least the 1 kill. The Thrall's going to be there. Actually pretty dangerous to DL1 as DL1 now is going to be helping. Sora's back up here ready to make the play happen. Is Hubert. He misses that's not Sora. Never mind. It's not him. Not going to happen. Instead, Yada's just going to be able to auto-attack him to death. Going to clean up a kill as that's 2 back to the Lysandra. And Kennen had to leave, so it's going to be a clean top wave as the Lysandra, the massive beneficiary. I mean, you're picking up everything if you're Lysandra here. Artemis getting dove on the bot side by Palette. He's going to have to back away, probably give up a plate over to Slater.
Yeah, but with that dragon coming down, they know Drakthar is in the area and will not be too aggressive. And in the end, these big trades coming up. Whoever's support is in the right position first is able to counteract the play. This time around, it was Huber on the roam and secures a couple of kills for Yado. And now it's Yado's turn to have the double buffs.
Yes.
Will they fall onto the floor, or
can we keep passing them all?
Yes.
Can we get all 10 players to have double buffs in this game? That is the truest and bluest of question. As Pun is actually going to keep DNK right on top of him. He's got the auto damage. The problem is Emperor coming in is going to cause a bit of strife, as that's going to be engaged from DL1 as well. Supports here from Drakthar, but that's not going to get anything. The Rumble ultimate was basically useless right there, as going to be able to get a kill here is the side of SBTCE against this Rumble. Something we didn't talk about all that much because it was the last pick in the draft, ended up coming through at the very tail end. This is something that Pun has run in the past as a very preferential damage pick for Pun. The last time we saw him play it, he actually crushed the beginning of the game, but then as the game kind of ticked on, it was a lot worse, and the Rumble ended up not looking so hot. So hopefully it's the reverse of that this game, where the early games are going so great for him, but maybe he scales up and does better as the game goes on.
Yeah, we've had a bit of a... We've sort of moved our VCS shockwaves to VCS Rumble ults because they have not been particularly clean from anyone, and that's also been a big reason why Pun's...
Mobby,
okay.
you do not have to be judicial about this in any way. We have the worst Rumble play in the world. Let's be very direct about that. Our Rumble play has been absolutely atrocious in this league. There's only been like 4 people who have done it. It was 2 junglers, and I have not seen one person who I'm like, yeah, I really want them to play it again. Other than maybe Pun's laning phase the first time we saw it. So this is the one person who gets a pass.
Yeah, I have to say, like, that's the thing. I don't want to say the overall play has been... Oh, never mind. Goodbye, Platt.
Sora impression. Artemis gets the kill, and they get the kind of first pass on the Rift Heralds as it's spawning in only 10 seconds. Going back to the VCS 2021 winter, as we're not even getting a coin flip around it. Instead, it's just going to be a 1 Rift Herald here coming out from the side of Cerberus.
Yeah, but this is good read from SBTC. They're not going to contest it. They're instead going to get their own gold back on the side of Slater. He's currently picked up 2 tower plates in the bot side, and so that's plenty. That's the Rift Herald charge completed. He might even be able to pick up a second one depending on how much damage has already been dealt.
I
But
don't
it-
think they're out of the woods here. Oh, never mind. Okay, I thought deal 1 was creeping up. I thought Paulette was creeping up. Now they're just going to give this one away.
Just maybe poking in, making sure there's no one camping a river brush. But they're gonna pick that up. Don't find any sort of exit kills or anything, so it's just gonna be a simple tower plates for Rift Herald trade. Stuck just the 2 for Slater on the bot side, but that's still gold directly into the size pocket.
Oh my
at
goodness.
that. Okay.
They really, really want to make a play into pun. That's that. They had 3 members set up, and only 1 on vision is gonna make sure that pun is not gonna get caught out here. Okay, what are we getting a replay of? Oh yes, but of course the Sora play. Oh wait, wow. Okay, props to Yato finding that ultimate out of the middle of nowhere, as that was what kind of led to the entire play, and the Rift Herald going over again. The trade-off of the Xayah to the bot lane getting a couple plates is not great, because again, it means that there's guaranteed gold into Slater, but you do get that kind of return on investment when the Rift Herald goes down eventually.
Yeah, and I mean, it's if you're feeling a bit annoyed as a player because you tried to flash over the wall, but the ultimate still goes through, and of course Blitzcrank follow up. Yeah, you can't do much about it from that point onwards. So just gonna be a little bit miffed about that, as Rift Herald is gonna be Dragon rather is gonna be coming up soon. Cerberus has that ability to try and cheat pressure with that Rift Herald. Can also have lost the flash on Paulette, who is still hunting for that level 6. Still needs to find himself some actual experience, but classic VCS support motive is we don't want to hit our ultimates until way too late into the game. It is the rule. 13-minute level 6, I think, is the record I've seen. But currently, Rift Herald in mid lane, gonna bring everybody up, try and put in a lot of pressure down here, continue to bully DNK. I don't know if DNK got that. I think Drakthar got the big chicken. And that is tragedy. Oh no.
Sora cosplay. Here we go. Huber trying to make it happen. E into flash. Q. DNK just has to ult in, but it's not going to be anything. As the jungle gap continues to widen in this game. Right now, Drakthar is absolutely crazy advantaged over top of DNK. I think he's up like double his CS or something like that. Yeah. Even though they're the same level, look at this. Yeah, 79 to 52 in this game. 50% increase on the CS score. Drakthar is also up 7 camps. You can see that based on the jungle item, which is an absurd number of camps to be up. Has his own spawning currently. I mean, this is a game focused around Drakthar. We saw this in their second playoff series where they played the Kindred. Didn't really get it done on Viego nearly as much, but this is a game where the investment is there for the jungler of Cerberus, and I don't mind it. A lot of members clustering here on the bottom side. We're actually seeing a rotate in from a number of people. Pull in. It's going to be another grab onto Deal 1. Deal 1's going to be directly in the face of all the members of Cerberus. Here comes Yato from the side. Going to get stunned up by the Annie. Now going to get run down by DNK. They're going to try to wrap around, help out their mid laner. But Yato not going to fall. Flashes over the wall. Ignite's not going to be enough to take them down. But SPTC gets a solid winning situation. Should net them the dragon as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember Yato using that ultimate onto DNK, but he must have used it He used it at some point, so wasn't able to defend himself there. Paulette just going to eat a rocket to the face. But yeah, nice pressure coming in from SPTC. They don't secure a kill, but they keep it so that Cerberus can't convert their kill into a dragon. They get to pick up this Mountain Drake, and we move on to this next rift, which is going to just be Cloud. So not the game-winning type of soul to worry about. Well, okay, look,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Relax. Okay.
It's a Cloud. Look, hey, Cloud is a fun soul. It's a fun rift to run around on, but it is definitely not. It's not a hex tech. I'll say that.
There are games where it is very powerful. I don't think this is one where it's absolutely necessary for either of the teams. I agree with that. Although Blitzcrank with a Cloud Soul probably is not fun to play against because he could be on one side of the map and then immediately be on the other side of the map, and there's nothing you can do about the hook that's inevitably coming your way. Somebody like I don't know, somebody would be able to take advantage. Some support in this league that I specifically won't name probably would be able to use that to win a game on his own, but I don't know that he would do that.
Yes, and of course this is also gonna bolster Enper in the top side. He's gonna love this as a cannon, as he's still slowly trying to work his way towards that hard steel.
He's been sitting on this itemization for like 5 minutes. Like I want him to back and finally like I feel like you need to beeline to the heart steel like as fast as possible so you can start abusing it. Because if you don't and you sit on this random itemization, this little junk drawer that he's got, like you're just getting no benefit. I mean, we're almost 15 minutes in. He hasn't even started the heart steel yet. Like that cannot be the case.
He's got a Kindle gem. He's got everything except the Doran's blade boots and pot are components. So. He's working towards it. He just needs to actually go back and buy it, and
yeah, I mean,
we'll see how far along he is at this point.
If I've got an RC car kit in my cupboard, like, yes, I've got the components, but it's still useless. Like, he needs to buy it. There's the item purchase. Maybe he didn't have the gold, but, like, that felt like a long time we've had to wait for the heart steel.
Yeah, and now it's in play. This Rift Herald is also going to be in play. So it's now Enper looking to try and utilize this teleport advantage he currently has, because Pun, of course, has gone for the Ignite. So we'll try and set up a potential side lane play, but no, he's currently looking to join the team around mid lane, make sure they have priority, they can get this pressure down in the lane. But it's still currently Cerberus having a good position of this Herald Pit. They have to wait for Artemis though before they want to really start a fight, unless they find DNK out of position again.
No vision on him. Just standing on top of a red ward. 2 red wards in the back of the pit as well. As Cerberus, again, leaning towards the top side of the map. They've got everybody up here situated for a fight if necessary. It should be bot tower actually just going down to Kennen. Again, without a member there, you can't abuse the heart steal, but you can't abuse the split push. That's going to be Pun getting stunned up, getting ulted by DNK, and going down without being able to press the equalizer button, which means that there's 1 full member removed from the map. Nothing stopping the top push now either. This could be a decent snowball from SPT CEE, because now they've got a ton of priority on the mid pit. Worst case, you trade Rift Herald for top tower, and I think that's a perfectly fine trade because you just got bottom tower too. So now you get a kill and 2 towers for the Rift Herald. I would say you don't even have to fight this if you don't want to. This is not a perfect, comfortable fight here for the side of SPT CEE. I wouldn't worry about it, because it's a not ideal TP coming in from Enper. He's pretty far back. That's going to be a stunned up DO1 who's actually going to get chain CC'd pretty hard, stuck in place. DO1's going to go ultimate. That's an Enper ultimate to try to get something, and Drakthar is going to have to go in. Yano jumps back in as well, finds a W. Drakthar gets over the wall, actually. Is he going to be able to outduel DO1? No, he will not, as that's going to be more than enough damage to bring down Drakthar. Rift Herald never went down either, so there is a re-entrance from Pun, which should kind of stave off the push from SPTCE, but no Rift Herald for Cerberus, and multiple towers in the fight win going to the side of SPTCE definitely spurns their W in that situation.
Yeah, they kind of get away with everything there. They don't lose anyone except Black, but they pick up Drakthar instead, which is just fine. DNK gonna pop the low key Emblem, remind everybody else here that he's been to Worlds. Him and Paulette, the only 2 who have been to Worlds. Rip Slater, who should have gone, but he's everything's going up great for the side of SPTC. They play that out well. They've taken the gold lead pretty comfortably, just about 1,000, but it's still gonna be coming out okay. 30 seconds to Dragon. Rift Herald's still on the table. Going to be interested to see if that sort of gets ignored or moved to an opportunistic take rather than a focus, as Dragon might be a little bit more important for one of these teams as stolen ult to clear the wave.
Yeah, DO1 grabs the Rumble Ultimate. Now doesn't have it for the team fight availability. Enper without TP as well should be able to push down top tower. And again, that's a lot that was received as a result of that Rift Herald play that came through from Cerberus, where they got basically nothing, as it's 2 towers dumped directly into the cannon as opposed to anything else, which is a lot. And they are trading the Cloud Dragon for it. But they're nowhere near Soul Point. I'm not loving this from Cerberus. Again, it's such a slow play on their part, and they don't have Kraken Slayer Jinx, so they're not going to have that like insane damage output. Scale Force instead, just to make sure that you've got quite a bit more safety away from some of the tools like the Cannon Ultimate, like the Vi, like Annie and things like that to create separation here for Artemis. I don't know. What are your thoughts here? Do they have to rely on Huber picks? Do they have to rely on Rumble Ultimate and Viego kind of sneaking up on members to try to climb back into this game, being down about 3,000 gold? I mean, what's your diagnosis? Is Cerberus fine in this game right now?
So I definitely want to see Yado and Drakthar linking up more, trying to hunt for picks. Huber joining them in the trio would also definitely not be a miss, but when it comes to the team fights, you're trying to just pick off someone, get the resets going from both Jinx, from pretty much all your carries says, okay, goodbye.
Engagement. Artemis is dead. Nothing else to be said there. Yato not going to get stunned up, thankfully, by the cannon. His Drakthar is going to wrap around the backside, going to prevent anybody else from going down. No Rumble ultimate yet. Pun's going to have to use that very creatively here to try to prevent. This is going to get dumped onto the wave. Emperor's not going to take all too much damage. Now on the side here, to try to find something. Rift Herald should be able to knock down the tower. Deal 1 into the midst of everything. And the backside goes Huber as Punch trying to dive into the backline as well. He and Drakthar actually putting out a very good amount of damage. Claw's going to be able to get a solid positioning from Yato as it's somehow a very well played fight from the side of Cerberus. 2 for 2 right now. Emperor's trying to jump forward. Not too much damage. Here comes Drakthar on the re-engagement. Could be looking for something. What a pull on Emperor underneath the tower. That's going to be one traded back. That's the Artemis ultimate that's going to be dropped in just as Artemis respawns. And now Drakthar wants the smoke. He's going to go into Cannon. He's going to try to find the stun up onto Dia1. The ultimate's going to be able to kind of get him away as it ends up being a 3 for 3 mid tower going down. Really the main benefit here for the side of SBTCE.
Yeah, unfortunately, looking for Dia in that entire fight, he couldn't pick an ultimate that really worked for him. He couldn't take Yados, he couldn't take Artemis's. He ended up taking the Viego ultimate and doing exactly nothing with it because it's just not a very good ultimate with that when it's not tied to that passive. So Dia1 not having quite as much impact on that fight as he potentially could have, but he's still walking away 5-1. He's completely happy, as this is a good pick, just finding a little bit of vision on to Artemis. There it is. Then they set up. Yato ults himself. I'm not sure if he was trying to ult DNK or something on the back, wanted to ult DNK or something on the back end, but it means he doesn't have an ultimate. It goes completely to waste. This Rift Herald will crash into the tower. They try and take this fight without the big ultimates. As I said, Dia didn't have any. They used the Cease and Desist and the Slicing Maelstrom to just kill the Jinx. So this actually works out kind of okay for Cerberus because they still had pretty much everything except the Lissandra ultimate. And a follow-up pick into the ultimate from Jinx. It comes out beautiful to sort of even out the fight.
Yeah, again, in a fight like that, you saw how much Yato was able to do with the combination of like abilities and thralls and things. So maybe ulting himself at the beginning of the fight was actually very beneficial. As Cerberus steps up for the mid tower, ends up grabbing it before there's any counterplay coming through from SBTCE. The sideline pressure still being laid on by Emperor quite heavily in that regard, just keeping lane shoved and everything else. Emperor really wishes he had somebody constantly responding to him. That Heartsteel starting to get some decent kind of play. There's some stacks starting to come through again. It's going to take maybe probably 5-10 more minutes before that really starts to become a massive threat in terms of damage and everything else. There's going to be a dive underneath the tower. Colette and DNK combined. Artemis is just suffering right there. The Stolen Rumble ultimate cuts off Pun and Drakthar's path. This is going to be DNK now. Oh, nice pull onto Dia1, but it's not going to end up meaning anything as Dia1 ends up getting a solid dash down onto Pun right there. And that's 2 members gone down now for the side of Cerberus, prompting maybe a Baron take. Worst case, mid lane shove here. Mid lane inner already down, so SBTCE has more or less a straight line directly onto the Baron buff, especially with the Slicing Maelstrom still available, the Featherstorm still available. They got more than enough tools to make this work here, Mobby.
Yeah, if nothing else, they can try and look for the bait. Emperor lurking on that top side. He doesn't exactly have the burst damage given the build he's gone for, but he can maybe find Drakthar. Can definitely just delay it, but now he's going to find 2. Gonna force out Yato and Drakthar.
Yeah, this is a disaster situation coming out here. That's gonna be a solid play. Okay, Dia1 probably got a big, too big for his britches. It's the ultimate coming through as Artemis is gonna be able to find a trade kill, but the Baron buff going down is all that really matters here for the side of the super big time chickens. Cloud Drake will go over, but as you said, there's no win condition there. I think from the side of Cerberus is a massive gold advantage is all that SBTCE really cares about in this one.
Yeah, no, there's the opportunity, but without the Drake and with how fast DNK can cross the map, maybe this is a bit of a risk if they try and start it up, because DNK could try and get his way in there. He has that smite available. So it's going to be, I guess, up to Huber and Pun to make enough of a threat that he doesn't want to go in that way. It's kind of looking like it's working.
Yeah, it's working a little too well.
At least.
Yeah, it's working a little too well, in my opinion. That's actually Emperor on the other side of the map, paired up with Dia1, as they say, nuts to the dragon. We don't care. We're going to grab up towers. And actually, especially with the Demolish, look at that damage that the cannon's putting out. Already, the Heartsteel got a ton of pay dirt in that last fight alongside the Demonic Embrace. means that the combination of Enper and basically any other champion as a front line and back line, that's the one defender. Pun's not even going to be able to dump the equalizer into the wave, just going to go down, and instead that's probably just a downed inhibitor tower coming through here from the side of SBTCE, if not just a downed inhibitor as well. And what are you to do in this circumstance? Yes, you got a dragon, but you losing the game as a result of it. It's play coming down. Nice Tibbers actually thrown directly in front of Huber to try to block the Q coming down onto Slater. They can't quite crack the tower yet. That's a flash ultimate from Edper, and he finds 3 members with it. Not a ton of damage to come out, but they're going to clean up the backside of this fight super easily, as that's got to be the end of the game. If not right this second, it will certainly spell the end of the game here.
They have 5. What is Drakthar going to do?
Maybe they do just punish this. Yeah, Drakthar's got to put on the most hero pants, but yeah, they're going to be done. Now Pun's coming back. That's a solid equalizer for damage, but I don't think it's actually going to do enough. Yeah, they're just going to lose the Nexus right here and right now, as Cerberus falls again to SBTCE. They are looking so good, Mobby. Cerberus is throwing punches back, but SBTCE has just full control of these games.
Yeah, Cerberus, definitely, SBTC reading the map a lot better than Cerberus, especially on that back end there. That dragon sort of, I thought, like, we was like, oh, with maybe DNK backing off the dragon this much it's a bit of a mistake. That he doesn't need to be that cautious. He can still maybe look and try and pick up the steal with Drakthar not being there. But no, they realize, oh, if they're going to commit for the dragon, we have Baron, we have a very good push in the mid lane and the top side. We can crack, at the very least, 2 inhibitors. Turns out they can crack the entire game.
I mean, again, it's really, really crisp in terms of decision making. Their team fighting is looking solid. That, like, even in a game where like DNK is basically like completely shut out at the beginning, they still find ways to find kills, still find ways to get gold into the right members. And again, outside of a very limited number of solid plays coming through from Cerberus, it feels like they are just without agency in the slightest. It'll be up to our desk to figure out what it is that Cerberus can do to try to take us into any sort of an extended series, because right now, SBTCE lurking on the edge of a 3-0. Be right back to get their opinions.
Welcome to the world, no heroes and villains. Welcome to the war, we've only begun. So pick up your weapon and face it. There's blood on the ground, go and take it. You get one shot to make it out alive. So higher and higher you chase it. It's deep in your bones, go and take it. This is your moment. Now is your time, so prove yourself and rise, rise. Make them remember you. Rise, push to heaven. Rise, rise. They will remember you. Rise. Welcome to the climb up, reach for the summit. Visions break, the one falls, steadily the end. So higher and higher you chase it. It's deep in your blood, go and take it. This is your moment. Take to the skies, go. Prove yourself and rise, rise. Make them remember you. Push to heaven. They will remember you. It is you fight among the dead, beneath the dirt. Or do you know yet? Or do you want it? And when the giants call to ask you what you're worth, do you know if we don't die? Prove yourself and rise, rise. Make them remember you. child and Valorant has heard the tale before about the cursed mummy boy who felt his heart no more. So sad and lorn, the helpless lad, Amumu was his name. He ventured out to find a friend and learn about his bane. For many years, young Amumu traveled through the lands, determined to make friends if only they would understand. But even when Amumu stood upon the ledge of home, his hope would disappoint him and he would remain alone. But then the curse began to whisper in his ear and would confirm what was Amumu's biggest fear. It pledged that never shall someone become his friend. It pledged that he shall be alone until his end. Sorrow and despair became too much to bear. The moment when Amumu realized what he had done, too late it was for him, for them, the evil curse had won. The anger and the anguish overwhelmed his fragile soul and caused a wicked tantrum that he never could control.
Coming round again. We wanna dose of this. Right now it's KDA. I'm a goddess with a blaze. 소리처럼 내 이름 잊지 못하게. Loud, 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 loud. I could take you to the top. 절대 멈추지 못해. 내가 끝내주는 bag, yeah, yeah, yeah. And when I start to talk that, oh, you know how to react. I'm a picture perfect face with that wild in my veins. You can hear it in my glow, 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 glow. So keep your eyes on me now. 무엇을 보든 좋아할 거야. 다 할 수 없는 배vo. 나와 되길 원한 늘 확신해. We got it all in our hands now. So can you handle what we're all about? We're so tough. Let's get it, show you up. Can you feel the rush now? Ain't nobody bringing us down, 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 down. They could try, but we gonna wear the crown. You could go another round, 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 round. Wish you luck, but you're not bringing us down. We go hard, till we get it, we go hard. We so in it, we pop stars. Only winning, winning now. Ain't nobody bringing us down, 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 down. You ready for this? Let's go. See, 언제든지 내 모습 매직 단 한 번에 내가 잡아 절대 기죽지 않지 펴펴 네가 뭘 알아 견딜 수 없어 원해도 원하는 게 얼굴에 보여 I'm troubling you running it I'm so cold when I move that way you gon' be so blown I'm the realest in the game said I'm on fire with the blade you're about to hear my name ringing in your head like whoa so keep your eyes on me now 무엇을 보던 좋아할 거야 We're so tough let's get it show you out Can you feel the rush now Ain't nobody bringing us down 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 They could try but we're gonna wear the crown You could go another round 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 Wish you luck but you're not bringing us down We go hard till we get it we go hard We're so in it we pop stars Only winning Ain't nobody bringing us down 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 난 멈추지 않아 we go hard we pop stars Ain't nobody bringing us down 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 They could try but we're gonna wear the crown You could go another round 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 Wish you luck but you're not bringing us down We go hard till we get it we go hard We're so in it we pop stars Only winning Ain't nobody bringing us down 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 down
And we're back here in the 80 once again. It's Jensen, Quincy, and Mabinogi bringing you our in-depth analysis, or just like hot to banter with regards to the series today between SBTC Esports and Cerberus. Right, and before we get into our 80 segment, let's bring up a recap of what happened in the previous game. Just as a reminder, as to SBTC's dominance.
Yeah, it looked like there was moments for Cerberus, but really just SBTC kind of just ended up running away with it. Like a lot of the early game was decided by the support roams, but in the end, DL1 just kind of ended up taking over. The team play around from SBTC was just better, catching out Artemis time and time again, and then eventually, once that Baron came down, they found an opening to just end the game while Cerberus was still fumbling trying to pick up a dragon.
Absolutely. And I think in this game, like at least on the upside for Server, there was like at least a little bit of red when they were red side in the gold. Because there were like sometimes where they at least like looked to be in the position to win the game. Actually, then getting to soul point is remarkable. But overall, I think Dragster had a very good game actually in the early game, but it was just not enough. And I think those cheesy kind of style comps with the Blitzcrank into reset composition is just not good enough yet. And why SPTC is just not fumbling, it is just them slowly but surely winning those games. At this point, actually being kind of a fast one of 24 minutes with a hard steel cannon is a very worrying sign for servers.
Well, personally, I'm excited by the SPT that we're seeing. If this team goes to MSI, I'm happy to root for the VCS representative with this level of gameplay that they're showing us here in Game 2 against Cerberus. But we're going to move on into a little bit of a segment on our analyst desk. From my time when I was coaching back in the VCS, I came across a hidden scroll, and that is where I found my coaching philosophy from. So, presenting to you Jensen's Jensenisms are things that Confucius may or may not have said. Now, the way that this segment is going to work is that I'm going to give you a statement, and then you let me know, based on the context of the games that we've seen so far, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much you agree or disagree with those statements. Okay? So, first one. Confucius says that teams who start fight in box will get boxed in team fight. And the box, of course, refers to that square in the mid lane, right between the two line bushes and the two tier 1 turrets.
Mhm.
On a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you agree with the statement? Team who starts team fight in box will get boxed in team fight.
I think that probably quite low. I feel there's a bit too many factors, and I mean the open space benefits some comps more than others, but so I'm gonna throw a 2.
I'd give it a 3, I think. It's just sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it's just all reliant on many other factors, of course, as Navi pointed out. So I think giving it a 3 is fair. Like, I mean, on average, we are on 2.5 out of 5 right now, which is like pretty even. So just basically a coin flip in that regard.
So there's lots of caveats, there's lots of asterisks. In the first game, we saw the team that started the fight at the box was the team that was losing. But in the second game, what we saw was that, you had the Vi, you had the Annie. They were going for it very aggressively when they had the numerical advantages. So not only were they starting fights in the mid lane box and absolutely boxing their opponents, they were also winning those decisively and snowballing the leads for SPTC. Let's move on to statement number 2. Better jungler wins. 1 to 5.
Very often is the case, yes, in VCS. I mean, you can say in this series, Viego managed to out jungle DNK, but that was a whole team effort. But I think so. 4 overall, maybe a 3 for the series.
How about you, Quincy?
I'd say 4 overall, a 2 for the series, because I think Dragster is playing more than fine and he just doesn't get the W, which is very sad to see.
Now, everybody likes to blame the jungler, but here comes the third statement. But jungle gap is support gap.
Ooh, I mean, in this series, I think yes, but I also want to throw in Pun into the top. Pun's roam down and interrupting and resetting that blue buff was a huge part of where the difference in Game 2 came from. So I do think supports are important, though, so 4.
Quincy?
I'd say 3 actually, because I think this series it doesn't really crystallize that clearly between those two, because I think both supports are actually playing fine. We had like these winning support matchups in both games with the counter pick coming up for sort of SPCC, and it isn't really a jungle gap in their favor. So I would say in this series actually kind of low, maybe 2 or even 3 in this regard. And yeah, I have to give it a 2 actually, because I think in this series it doesn't really apply that much.
And with that, I think that we have shared some of the interesting nuances about things Confucius may or not have said. But here we are into band pick already, and let's see if those same concepts will apply. Does the better jungler win, or is it the support that comes out hit? We would never know. But it's time for SPTC to hit the draft for Game 2 against Cerberus Esports.
Yeah, drafts race quite along. Junglers, AD carries have been picked. Artemis picking up the Zeri this time wants to be a little bit safer than on the Jinx, rely on himself a little bit more, but with Cuba picking up the Zeri alongside it, definitely playing to complete safety. As this time around, Dia's going to take the Ahri and try and play a bit more of that pick in potential, not wanting to use the Annie. Well, the Annie has been banned, but still wanting to have that pick priority in the mid lane.
He does, and it's DNK for the 3 games in a row. Why pick up this time? I mean, it definitely is a pick that seems to work for him. And this time, DR1 on the Ari. I actually think Ari is more on the losing side in recent times in VCS. So I think DR1, he kind of has to show Yado how Ari is really played this game and really just win the early game and just snowball the game away, which seems to be the theme in general, right? I mean, Desire also a pick that I would favor in the early game against something like the Zeri, and now Cerberus, yet again, on Artemis' side especially, kind of just shading the pick that actually Slater is kind of renowned for in this split, so maybe the Zeri Zulu will work out for them, and Yadov needs to find another answer, because his Lissandra is surely getting taken away. As we see right now, it is already banned by the start of SPTC, so let's wait and see what he really still has up his sleeve. It will be, I expect, like Talia or Cassiopeia for him, and I think those are the picks where he can still influence the map.
Swain. I mean, it's flexible technically. You can play Swain mid lane, but yeah, I was definitely expecting more the Talia to come out here. I guess trying to block the Malphite pick, as they've shown the Swain as that counter to it before. But now, what do you end up taking into the Swain is the question. Cannon banned, so you can't take that. The Emperor wants to pull out the Camille. Yep, so that seems to be it. Definitely. So very happy to take that matchup into the top side. And now we're looking for that support coming in from Paulette. I know you're into the Lulu, so that blocks a few things. Maybe you're looking to pick up. I mean, Thresh could work. You could try and pick up an enchanter of your own. That looks like Renata will be it.
Looks to be the Renata. Could also have gotten something like Thresh or Alistair in this side, but they just want to make the enchanter. And I really like this Fiora pick because though the Swain is a potential flex pick, but he neither wants to play against Ari nor Fiora really much, so it's kind of a very screwed situation for the side of Cerberus. And they actually opted the Gragas last pick, though they still not really showing which solo laner is really going where. But I think this is kind of a missed opportunity to just plug in the Malphite and at least have a good pickup for Pan that could also at least in lane work well against the Fiora. But I think Emperor is very fine to play Fiora into this composition.
Yeah, I feel like you're pretty happy either way. I think you're more likely to see the Swain in the top side. I think that's a slightly better matchup than Gragas and Fiora. But this is going to be a bit of an interesting one coming out from Yado on the Gragas. I don't know. I don't think we've seen a ton of Gragas from Yado over this split. But yeah, no, just the one game, and it was not a win. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange draft from SPTC, but they're relying heavily on the bot lane once again.
Let's go into a quick summary of both team compositions. Agency in the mid lane for CES, trying with that reverse their fortunes. And Quincy, you want to break down what SPTC has to offer for themselves?
Yeah, this time a less conventional competition for them in general. It's just a very strong early game competition regarding the mid-jungle axis and as well the bot lane with Zaya being there up against the Zeri and the Renata kind of matching these enchanter styles as I addressed earlier. But they have it just as a bridge to the late game where I think Emperor would take over the side lane and there's no real direct answer for Cerberus. However, I think in the mid game, in the 5v5 team fight, there might just be an edge for Cerberus as they could potentially play this out in the 5v4. But I think all in all, I think SPTC with Coach Ram kind of wet Cerberus like a book today. And I would expect it to be a 3-0.
It's the Drop Kingdom coming from Coach Ren as we head over onto the riff, and let's trade over to our casters.
Welcome back, everybody, as we're stepping into game number 3 now. SPTC wanting to get back into that finals, take a rematch up against GAM to see if they can make their qualification MSI run, or if that's even possible after a wonderful 5-game series in our upper bracket finals. And Cerberus, they were stuck in a bad spot previously. They had to make a bit of a reverse sweep against Wales just last week, so maybe they've got it in them to try to make it happen here today. Is the magic there, Mobby?
I mean, it feels like Artemis on a hyper carry like this would be it, but this has statistically been one of Cerberus's and I guess Artemis's worst champions. Just, I guess, a little bit to do with timing on release, because Cerberus was having a rough split in 2022, and that's when Zeri was around. So, not a great win rate, but he's definitely shown competence on this in the past. So, have to see if they can bring it together, as we actually do see Yado taking the Swain into the mid lane. This is going to be a bit interesting. Adds that extra flex potential as an option in future series, in future games, if this turns out to be a win, but Emperor's not going to find the harassment onto Drakthar, not going to interrupt that jungle at all. But he is going to have a completely fine time into this Gragas. The barrels will be a bit of poke, but shouldn't be completely safe from anything. Artemis taking the beat.
Yeah. Artemis, effectively without an ability at level 1, makes it very, very difficult to actually kind of take trades like this. Level 2 gets a little bit easier because then you've got the laser, you've got the slide, you can make some plays happen. Also, level 2 for the Lulu, super hard power spike. But at level 1, the fact that they're choking up here from Slater and Paulette means they understand that this is a solid spike that they can operate on, getting half the health bar of Artemis, shoving them off the wave, making sure to deny them as much as they can before this Lulu and this Zeri actually come online. Notably as well, Artemis did spot out DNK. Clearly Drakthar getting kind of poked out on the top side of the map in his red buff pit after that ward prompted DNK to come over here and start counter jungling. In fact, Drakthar is going to go after him instead of waiting and trying to farm or anything. He's going to go over the wall. Gonna try to hunt him down. There we go. Okay, not a bad idea for Wukong. W also gonna force out the flash from DNK, who's gonna have to queue over the wall. If I were Drakthar, I'd actually maybe step into the opposing jungle. I know Renata and Desire have push, but you've got the Swain there for a bit of support. I would have liked to see a little bit more bloodthirst here from Drakthar. But obviously, you can see Renata's literally just tanking waves to make sure that the defense is there. As back on top side, Emperor and Pun going at it. Look at these health bar trades, Mobby.
Yeah, really, really, really spicy. Just whoever can get something going. Ghost blown for flash, so a bit of a small one for Emperor coming out there. As we're going to see Drakthar sort of make his way across now. He should be able to pick up that crab for free. There will be tread on the bot side as into the pockets of the Xayah, so that he's not going to be able to double. He's going to double crab in a sense of getting it out of the hands of DNK, but definitely going to. But it's not going to impact the map state overall, the team difference. And now he's going to try and find his way into getting a blue buff back of his own.
Yeah, I think this. I would have loved to see it supported by Yado. Yado TP'd back in. Hopefully, he can get a reset on the blue buff. He actually didn't get a full reset on the blue buff, which means that Pun is not going to be able to come down and actually assist in any capacity. See if Drakthar can get it. No, he cannot, so he is going to get 3 buffed, unfortunately, on his first clear. Just as a result of that one ward going down for Emperor at the beginning of the game, securing that information for his jungler. Good support coming out here from the SBCT team. They've given a lot on the side of Drakthar in this series. Okay, that's a gank into the mid lane. Q, flash. Drakthar doesn't have any more damage. Last auto is going to get it. Well played. First blood over to Yado.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice bonus into the back pocket of Drakthar as well. Getting that assist goal going to help him be comfortable. Having lost a couple of camps to the side of DNK, and now he's feeling pretty. He's feeling okay. But a good push in, find out DL1, get some kills onto Yado, let him roll into a pretty comfortable position. And now DK is going to keep finding the CS advantage, keep counter jungling, knowing that Drakthar has to back off after that play mid.
Yeah, I would also love to see the bot lane get a little aggressive here because they know that there's no back here for Renata. Renata actually stayed around quite a bit longer to make sure that the jungle was well defended before seeing Drakthar cross to the other side of the map, and so only just now is Paulette getting back into the laning phase. Which means that there was an opening. Of course, they're going to use it to push the wave. Artemis and Huber are going to go back and get another back in very, very quickly before, so they can kind of equalize where everything is at. It's going to be completed Berserker Greaves now for Artemis, who's going to be able to use that alongside the Cole, probably be fine in the laning phase. The Lulu starts to beat out the Renata in the laning phase as well, so you're feeling comfortable. As actually, nice play, nice roam from Paulette as well. An immediate redeploy into the mid lane, as that's going to punish Yado, and DL1's going to pick up the kill. As the number of times in this series that this team has come together so effectively at the beginning is just astonishing here, Mobby. SBTC is playing so well today.
They're playing really well possessed. They even use this pressure to pick up the dragon as well. They have been on point. And Paulette, the Renata doesn't win into the Luluan lane, so he just leaves the lane. Goes, gets a kill, donates that over to DL1. He's going to be feeling really happy right now. And now it's just straight back at it. This pressure, this push that comes out from the Xayah is just too much for Cerberus to really clap back against. Now DK is just going to keep keep him
Okay.
on, but they definitely know he's here.
Okay, all right. Yeah, no slide actually used. Artemis hasn't burnt any cooldowns, only just now getting it because there's re-engage coming through from Drakthar as Artemis wants to play very far forward, wants to try to find something. Nice Q from the Renata means that Palette is able to cancel out any sort of engagement that comes through. Drakthar, though, he finds the damage, and Huber cleans up on the backside of that one. That was a lot of damage thrown out down. Yato actually wants to smoke into the Ahri, probably going to force out the Spear Rush pretty easily. Is there a dive to be had here? Is DNK still around? Yato doesn't have the E quite yet. Not going to be able to stop up Dia1. That's the E, the last chance that you would have had to try to clean that one up, as Yato is going to lose the ultimate. As a bit of a response coming out here from Cerberus. Nice kill coming into the bottom lane. Going to be able to push back Slater a little bit. Probably get another back here for Artemis and for Huber.
Yeah, they caught DNK pushing up extremely aggressively through that ward in Tri-Rush, and so Drakthar could instantly respond with a counter gank. So they couldn't quite find the angle onto Slater though before he hit 6, and after that Featherstorm comes through, there was absolutely no chance of that gank. Python quietly winning this matchup on the top side. He's been landing a good amount of poke with these barrels, going full on aggression, going for the Everfrost rather than a Rod of Aegis, so going to look for a bit more burst, a bit more of that setup instead of playing that pseudo frontline, which is kind of fair enough. You have Yato, who's going to be that pseudo tank. You have Drakthar, who's going to be a reasonably tanky frontline himself, regardless. So you don't necessarily need to commit that much into health. And now, once again, Palette's going to try his best to hold the wave, but
I think it should be a plate kind of bring down. That's Yato getting flashed on by DNK, and that's another gank onto the Swain that is successful. It's 2 now that they've been able to pour into Dia 1. That's just a little bit of something coming out here. I've got this issue that, like, Cerberus's team fighting has not been crisp today. It has not looked good against the side of SPTC either. They're doing a lot better when it comes to pick tools and things like that. And so if they're relying on a late game where you're playing the 5-on-5, obviously the Swain, I think, does yield much better to that. You do have pick tools like the E and things like that, the Gragas barrel. There's options for that. But if you're playing the more 5-on-5 type style, I mean, where do they need to fix their problems? Because this series has not been the greatest team fighting displays coming out from from the side of Cerberus that we've ever seen before.
Yeah, I think definitely thinking about that cooldown economy is definitely a big part of it that Jensen was talking about, because we sort of saw disconnected uses of ultimates, like in that using Malphite ult and then to set up one pick and then trying to team fight without it and committing your when you're fighting down on ults, but maybe up in members. But so I think maybe working a little bit better for that. You can honestly, with this composition, you can kind of just wait. Post 15 minutes, post 20 minutes, you can kind of just group everybody up in 5 and just walk at whatever objective you want. And that's not a lot SBTC can do about it. Empa can be a side lane threat to some extent, but it's extremely hard to win a game through that split push. So I feel like that's the opportunity. Maybe if you set up and just force these team fights with that death ball, it's a good play onto Yato to get some low, but
Yato again is just he's not. I'm guessing that this was a swap kind of more as a result of the Fiora more than it was a planned swap coming through from Cerberus, because Yato doesn't seem particularly comfortable. Not unpracticed, more not like ready for this, right? Like they weren't planning the Swain swap. I have to imagine they probably put the Swain mid lane as a potential flex in some scrims, and then it's just like, okay, when it's time we bust it out, because they don't want to take the Swain into the Fiora, they don't want to give that lane away, and they're like, okay, well, it should be fine mid lane into Ahri. And there have been 2 ganks that have gotten kills, but in a one-on-one, even that is a ton of damage that's been poured into Yato, who typically is quite a bit of a rock in the mid lane. I would have expected the Swain to be something that was very effective, but just has not quite been that level. Once team fighting starts, once the Rod of Ages starts, you start to get bulkier, you start to not worry as much. Things will likely change in terms of fate here for Yato, but the laning phase has not been the best so far.
Yeah, and we're seeing a very different type of Swain build coming on out. We're seeing the Rod of Ages instead of the tier into Rylai's Rush that we saw in the top lane. Maybe because I guess you might need that bit more of the mana sustain rather than the actual they're just building up a mana pool in the mid lane. But it has resulted in a slower build path. Going to be a lot later to having that impact. As the Rift does go down and crash, and it's some nice gold donated over to Artemis, but it's not really all that much. It's a 500 gold lead for Cerberus, offset somewhat by this dragon. It's actually dropped to about 300 gold. So it's just a very, very even early game, which in theory does benefit Cerberus in the as the fights go on in a pure 5v5 setting, but we have to see if they can actually get to a 5v5 setting comfortably.
Got to be a bit cautious here because, again, the redeploy right after a back means that Cerberus actually in a much stronger place. DO1 was in a spear rushed in to try to find Yato, and Yato was unceasing and unwavering in his standing. Very, very strong there. Although now Yato's in a really terrible place. Yeah, that's the Renata ultimate that's going to be able to drive away the majority of members right there. W coming out from Drakthar to make sure nothing else is going to come through. Artemis is going to continue upping auto attacks. A couple of low members, but it should be the Dragon confirmed here for the side of SPTCE. That felt like Yato got the really rough end of the deal right there. He was already low in the laning phase. They had to try to contest the Dragon. They actually had a really good timer for 3 members, but because of the 4th member coming in, because DO1 was still full health, that's where the punishment really came through, and you can see that. I mean, this is DO1 who just wants all the smoke against Yato here.
Yeah, Dia just getting Yato into half health, but then sticking around to a point where Yato has kind of ended up corralled into the enemy team, into range of Slater, who can just set up the, who can combine with DNK and get that easy pickup. The hostile takeover means the rest of the Cerberus has to scatter as well. They can't stick around and try and take a fight off of that, but... Yeah. So it's just a nice, quick cleanup. On the plus side for Cerberus, I guess you have topside going extremely well. Emperor is pretty much always under tower. It's not turning out to a big CS lead or anything, but it means this Fiora is not getting off to an advantage. It's going to take a while for it to be a real menace in the side lane, and Fun is comfortably getting to a point where he can just instantly delete waves and not have to worry about Emperor at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, you say that, and Emperor continues to poke away with the Divine Sight, but it's pretty rough. It's not great. Rod of Ages is done for Yato. That's a nice little spike to come through. Biggest problem is that SPTCE once again has Dragon control, which they've had for all 3 games of this series so far, which means that Cerberus has to put their foot down and be able to kind of capture one of them to slow down this Dragon stacking. If they can do that, maybe then they have the chance. Again, I haven't been super faithful to their team fighting prowess inside of the series, but at minimum, you don't want to be forced into that team fighting situation if you don't have to be. So getting the next Dragon super imperative to make sure that that's going to be the case. Yeah, and again, as items start to come through, second item Swain a lot harder to kill, especially if you get into with the Zonias. You know, Zonia's going to allow him to frontline a little bit more easily. When Gragas starts kind of entering fights, I mean, with all the AP that this Gragas is going to have at the beginning of the game, with the Everfrost, the lockdown is huge onto members like Slater, like Palette, if they end up getting knocked in. So not a bad option as well. So as some of this starts to come together, maybe the fighting looks okay. Maybe on the next Dragon, you can actually look for a bit of a 5-on-5.
Yato is just constantly half health. He tried to step out to essentially ward with that W into that bush that spotted out DNK, meant that no dive could come through onto Artemis, but he ends up taking his health bar for it. He has to back off, and even in this pressure, is still enough to force Artemis away and get a first health for Slater. So playing it out very nicely. Couple hundred extra gold on plates as well. Now Yato might just be in trouble.
Okay, Yato's going to pop the ultimate, going to stay alive for a bit of time. There's the stopwatch coming through, which actually is quite beneficial for making sure that he's not going to die. Actually only dropped to half health as they didn't have the Ari's magic damage. Artemis, very, very... okay, all right. Well, all right. I get it now. See, here's the thing.
Oh, Palette.
Okay, and Palette's going to get pulled back too. That's going to be a double kill. All right, coming through here for the side of SPTCE. It is insane what I just watched, because what I thought I just watched was Artemis taking a defensive position against the Vi, only to then get punished immediately afterwards instead of just dashing into the Vi, which is what I fully expected. And honestly, I think if he had played full aggression, he might have ended up in a better spot, because he could have actually put damage in and maybe traded off 1-for-1. And instead, because he was so far away, because he had to play more aggressively, that's what baited him further up and what allowed the side of SPTC to trade him off before there was even an option.
Yeah, tier 1 now and currently being harassed by this Lulu, but yeah, I thought they kind of fumbled it, because we start with the dive, they walk into the stopwatch, and yeah, he goes in, tries to do something, but DO1 is just following behind him, so it's just a bit of a bad read, and of course the follow-up hook from Palette to secure the second kill is nice as well, but unlucky.
Artemis 100% of the time walks directly at DNK. Like, just walks at him, right? Or slides at him, just does something. In some cases, he's flashing at him right there. This is the one and only time I've ever seen Artemis, like, actually take, like, a posture that's, like, you know, it's somewhat decently defensible. And all it did was bait him into walking back into RE Charm Breach because he had to walk closer to DNK. Like I said, just walk at DNK, and then once the charm comes in, once a Q comes in, flash it, and then auto attack, and you probably win because everybody's low right there. And instead, he gets caught up with that charm, got baited by his own positioning. Again, a very rare Artemis not playing way over aggressive actually costs him for the first time ever, as DNK is going to get auto attacked very, very heavily, is going to get brought down here. Yes, the Palette ultimate, and that's going to be a kill over to Artemis. As they're able to get something back on the map again, every once in a while, Cerberus is able to find these kind of small moments, small bright spots, as it might even be mid-tower going down if they put enough into it. They should be able to get a decent amount of health onto this. Palette's also going to take quite a bit. Wow, that's a lot. Mid-tower's going to fall. Dragon's available, too.
Yeah, it's gonna be traded out for the bot lane tower and also top lane tower. So it's just a one for two tower trade. They're gonna pick up the dragon as well, most likely. Dia's gonna try and camp in a bush, but he has been spotted, so should just try and exit out of there. And dragon tower for two towers, it's good for Cerberus. It stops the stacking, but it is more gold to the pockets of SBTC. Sorry. Yes, yep, I got that right. First time around, and now Dia is still in no man's land.
Okay, Dia is just messing around. That's an E, that's a W, that's coming through. Swain's going to slow him down, going to force out the Spear's Rush as Dia is going to have to get out of dodge as fast as possible. I get like you said, I think you put it as best as possible. Again, the gold advantage stays for SBTCE, but again, if you want any kind of counterplay, you have to sometimes take plays like this. What happened on top side? Okay, so this was Pun directly into the counter and just dies. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's logical. Okay, that was like the least mechanically intensive W I think I've ever seen in my entire life from a Fior. He literally just pressed it, and then Pun just it was like me trying to body slam into Emperor right there, unfortunately.
Yeah, so well, that kill that kind of missed. We kind of missed him in the play again, but that means that it's an even worse play for SBTC, for Cerberus rather, because that balances out the kill onto DNK, and then the towers just sort of roll their way. So now, but it does mean 5 more minutes till the next dragon. 5 more minutes till Soul Point becomes a possibility. But Baron is up in a minute, and with this side lane control that they've managed to pick up so far, Emperor can push extremely deep, force a pretty decent response from the side of Cerberus. Otherwise, he's threatening inhibitor towers, so this gives a lot of pressure for SBTC to set up the top side, push in, get some jungle, get some wards down, take away some camps. Unfortunately, they don't have that mid lane tower, so it's still there's still a pretty easy route for Cerberus into that jungle, into that contest.
So, it's actually been kind of wild. For the last 4 years, there have been 3 teams who have actually played against GAM in a finals. Those teams are Team Flash, who beat them. And that team contained Ego and a lot of other things. Yato's just going to go down once again. We don't really care. Cerberus might actually make this into a team fight, so might have to hold this bit of narrative for just another second. But D1 is able to escape with the Spirit Rush basically anytime.
It's going to go kill Yato. Huber.
It actually might kill Huber. And Emperor with another great counter means no damage gets taken. That's going to be a big Renata ultimate. That's Artemis who's getting stuck in a really bad position. Can Artemis actually slide? Really, really great slide. Actually, again, the positioning from Artemis has been so much better on this Renata or on this Zeri over the course of the game. So maybe that's something to bank on. Can you further into more kills? Pun is back and he wants smoke. He's not going to get any, unfortunately, as it's going to be an escape coming through from SBTC. As it is 2 for 1 for Cerberus. They lose a tower, unfortunately, as Emperor was kicking Pun in the stomach most of that play. But at least they get a little bit of something back. Again, the breathing room is not gone for the side of Cerberus.
Yeah, Slayer actually understanding there that he could have tried to flash and tried to get out of that, but he just realizes as long as nobody else dies on SBTC, that Cerberus can't commit to anything. They can't go for this Baron, so he can just sit there, wait, and come back to a fight and have his full set of summoners available for a potential Baron fight. This is just Yato getting absolutely crushed. They even messed up the CC with the Everfrost and whatnot, but it didn't actually matter. And then Dia gets greedy. We don't get to see it all, but he jumps in, tries to kill Huber, but that's a bit much, bit hard to do. And unfortunately, that Renata roll kind of doesn't do anything because Draktar's spinning, not autoing. Zeri right clicks instead of pressing Q, so it doesn't actually do all that much damage. You get maybe the one empowered right click, but and then Lulu doesn't do any auto attack damage. So not the best. You can't find the execute there, and they just run down Slater, catch Slater out in a bad position on the corridor, and he chooses to save his summoners.
And again, I think what's astonishing is with SBTCE making it look like they are going to win this game, this series, certainly at this point. Again, it's not a done deal. 3,000 gold at 22 minutes. It's not world-breaking, but it is at least a solid start here for the squad. The fact that this is now only like the fourth team that has challenged GAM in like the last 4 years, because you've had Saigon over the last couple that have been really kind of the mainstay. I'm pushing for finals. I'm pushing to try to do something. You know, they've come the closest to actually doing anything. They beat them last year inside of a playoff series in a best of 5. So like really, really good stuff, right? Like they did some really, really amazing stuff over the last couple of years. And then there's Flash, who beat them, which had, of course, that was like the Cotty, and that was the ego combination, and that team has been broken and shattered to the wind. Slater, Paulette, you have all the pieces that are making up this SPTC squad, right? And then you have, of course, the one split where Cerberus actually got something done, which was the Mickey Mouse split, of course, more than anything else. So now, is this SPTC squad that level of strength that like you believe them capable of pushing GAM? Because they went to 5 games, right? But now it's a finals, and GAM always turns on in finals, always does great things. Can they draw them to another 5-game final?
Yeah, I mean, you imagine so. Like, you look at the roster lineup, it's pretty stacked. Like, you had Slater who won both those Flash splits. You have Dia, who was on GAM both those times that Flash beat them. You have Paulette, who was on GAM in the spring, on Flash in the summer of 2020. You have DMK, who, while he hasn't contested in a finals, he did go to Worlds on low-key esports that became Team Secret. Has definitely been its mainstay towards the top of the VCS. And of course, Emperor, who has kind of been one of the big upshine rookies coming out of nowhere looking to make his name. So it feels like this should be a roster that can absolutely take it to GAM. They just have to finish out that fifth game. Tomorrow. They just gotta put it together for that final game, and it might be rough on their 3rd day of League of Legends in a row. It might be.
Yeah, it's been tough. It's a long weekend for the side of SBTCE. You think about they had to play the best of 5 against GAM. Now they're fighting for their lives against Cerberus to try to make it into the finals. And while this game isn't particularly stressful, the series hasn't been particularly stressful. They do have to come up with another game plan, because now GAM has game tape. They have games to review. They have a lot that they're able to work with, and there's a lot more they had to put into making sure that Cerberus was going to get brought down here by SBTC. It was kind of wild too, because walking into this one, again, SBTC I thought had a better team altogether, but I was excited about the prospect of Wales because they had players like Killer Queen and like some of these more upshot type players that are getting their first shot at titles instead of some of the players that have done it before. And it's like like Glory, like I wanted to see Glory go for a title, I want to see Killer Queen go for a title, players like that. But again, this veterancy is certainly coming online and being this massive boon for the side of SBTCE, as maybe the only time we've seen a team really be able to push them like this. Artemis made a very aggressive play, jumping over top the wall, trying to press the ultimate, trying to find something, but nothing sticks. The Renata Q denies him in place.
Ghost and ultimate blowing. This is kind of an opening for SBTC to try and use the Baron as a bait more than anything, and that's gonna work. Oh,
Huber
not quite.
Very nearly dies. Dia can't quite find it. Spirit Rush is going to eventually get him the kill, but actually might cost Dia his life, as that's going to be a Cyclone block from Drakthar. Now they're low. The Baron's actually down there. They have to get over top the pit to contest this one. Drakthar is going to have to go in very little health. That's going to be an execution from the Feathers, as Drakthar did end up flashing over top the pit to be able to get over instead of using the Blast Cone, as they weren't expecting that level of blitz. And now Emperor also has more than enough free reign to do as they please. Artemis is going to try to chase him down. W is going to try to slow him down. Emperor's looking to get caught, but I don't think they actually want this. Emperor might be strong enough to take all 3 at once.
Oh, he's got Slayer in the back
what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Now he has the ultimate popped out onto Pun. W's going to come down to slow him down just a little bit. I think if that gets something, he ends up cleaning that kill. But because there was nothing, has to walk away. But the Baron buff feels so devastating, as that's going to likely be Cloud Soul coming down for the side of SBTCE. They've got a significant gold lead at this point. There's very little that Cerberus has left in the tank to be able to win this game.
Yeah, it's a small fumble on that pick, but that means Dio has to commit extremely hard. He ends up trading his life for the Baron overall, but it's working out pretty much okay because they pick up a tower in the mid lane. They are able to redeploy on the map, and Enpa still has that split push capability with the Baron. They can set up a 1-4 extremely easily and set up, as long as they keep the bot lane sort of AFK pushing, they were happy there as well. Pun is going to go collect that right now, but they can just park the squad in the mid lane, let Enpa do his thing topside. And what is Yada going to do? He's going to try his best, but Enpa could have mostly ignored it, but everyone's here.
He did. Yeah, this is not the pun mega tank Swain that we saw the other day. This is just the glass cannon, apparently. Well, I would call it more like a glass vase because it's not really doing any damage anyway. But Artemis gonna get stunned up, has to flash over top of the wall, gonna try to get away. Renata ultimate gets burned, I think, as an attempt to try to catch Artemis, but it's not gonna work out. But still, they're actually on the wrong side of their base. They're gonna have to back somehow and get back because DNK is hunting them down, ensuring that Artemis and Hubert can actually access the base. TP in from Enper is also going to force it. That'd be quite a bit of a forcing move. Are they going to be able to do it? No, they cannot. DNK is just a menace. There's 2 people stuck outside the base, and this feels adequate, Mobby, if I'm being 100% honest. SBTCE, even into the final moments of the game, are just bullying Cerberus, ensuring that their bot lane can't get back for the defense. And
DNK.
It
He's
is
a menace.
just DNK. I mean,
He's a
what
menace
he's
to
supposed
society.
to do. He is. Drakthar's going to get brought down. That's everybody brought down. There's no one here for the defense of the base. And SBTCE, after yesterday's 5-game series against GAM, looked so competitive.
DNK.
And honestly, we were a bit worried about them coming into today. They had to fight for their playoff life. But here they go. They get another chance at the title against GAM in our finals, and in such convincing fashion.
Oh, absolutely. Delaying the Nexus just so they can pad their stats a little bit more. Slater turning around just to kill Paulette. DNK finishing off Artemis in the jungle. Just pure mayhem, pure menacing. And they played this out so cleanly. It was just very much the better team from start to finish. There were moments of bright spots from Cerberus, but that 2nd seed versus 4th seed coming in quite as you'd expect. This is we didn't have super high. We had higher hopes for Cerberus after their win against Team Wales, which was a bit of an upset, but SBTC, they took down to 5. They came in here, they cleaned up Cerberus pretty quickly, and they're gonna go straight back up to GAM and be like, all right, round 2. And if they win this one, hey, luckily for them, GAM doesn't have to get a second shot, I suppose.
Very true. It does. Honestly, I think Cerberus being able to beat Wales, it feels a bit disingenuous to the performance in the split because Cerberus had a really bad ending to the split. Wasn't super great. It was kind of on the verge of getting knocked out. The fact that they won that series, I think, did solidify them and being like, okay, yeah, we were competitive with the top level teams. And this was, more indication that no, they were not. SBTC is a bit of a head and shoulders above that team. Even Wales was up there too. But now SBTC gets to show off the fact that even the 3rd best team they got in a 2 or 3-0. Getting a second shot again tomorrow is also a really exciting prospect because of just how amazing that their series was before. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to be a part of it tomorrow. Our desk is going to break down this series one last time before sending us off to a break and preparing for our finals just tomorrow. Take it away, guys.
Welcome back to the break. Not so much Jensenisms happening on that one, but I have to say I am very impressed by the way the SBTC has played in this series. I haven't paid the closest attention to the VCS throughout the split itself, but damn, I am liking what I'm seeing. It's scratching my coaching itch. I love the way they're moving around the map, the way they're creating numbers advantages in the side lanes, the way they're respecting space in the mid lane and everything. And I have to say, throughout the series, my boy, Dear One, at the start, I said that, hey, I was part of the team of people who brought him into the VCS. We had to go talk to his parents, convince him that, hey, pro gaming is a thing, pro gaming is a thing and everything. But what does the rest of the desk have to say about the series today?
I mean, you've heard me basically through the cast, and it's been a big cleanup for SBTC, but this time I think finally it's sort of gone to Cerberus' head. This time around, SBTC decided to just show they were better players straight up, especially in that mid lane. Yado got bullied. And you can say a little bit they kind of played themselves with the draft and the Swain flex, but it ended up in a situation where TO1 just ended up crushing Yado in a lot of situations. He had no impact on the Swain, and it was just a really big statement game from SBTC, the mid lane in particular.
I absolutely agree, and I think maybe Cerberus kind of shoot themselves in the foot with the draft, but I mean, I gotta say, it's like your most important best of 5 of the split. If you draft bad, you are bad. That's just as harsh as the reality sounds, and I say that as a Cerberus fan. And just gotta say, Yado and Artemis in particular today, I think, which is kind of sad, right? Because in the split overall, I think they were great, but today they kind of got outclassed by their opponents, or at least outmatched in the sense of Artemis, who was not the beta AD carry today. And I think I want to draw like some silver linings for the side of Cerberus, because Pan and Draktar played fine today, and for a 3-0, it was kind of a close 3-0 compared to other 3-0s in general. But overall, Cerberus not really showing the best today. But SPTC on the other hand, I mean, they kind of read them like a book and deservedly move on away for a rematch against Garm, and that hopefully won't be a 3-0 just as last time.
Well, and with that, let's start to look a little bit on the horizons. Commiserations to CES and commendations to SBTC. But we'll do a little bit of this or that to close out the segment. Once again, I'm just abusing my power as desk host to keep you all captive over here. Okay, so 4 statements, right? Which do you think is the better Exodia composition from the VCS? Syndra, Sion, Tristana, where you don't know which champion is going to go where, with the flex picks of how these 3 champions work, or Lissandra, Viego, Kai'Sa, which is the more exciting VCS Exodia composition.
I think Tristana is the instant upgrade. I personally find Kai'Sa to be fairly boring after suffering through 2018, 2019 of Saya Kai'Sa forever and ever. So Tristana is instantly a bit more exciting. I also think the potential flex of a Syndra to the bot lane, Tristana mid. Tristana can even go top, so absolutely. But absolutely that one.
Quincy?
I actually disagree. I think I have not seen enough of Kai'Sa so far. I mean, she was a very obnoxious in the 2018, 2019 meta in general, but I think in recent times she kind of has not been shown quite a bit, so it would be refreshing to almost see her back, as I'd argue on this one. And also, like, with Viego Lissandra, it would be kind of like a little bit of a reset city, and I think those comps are in general exciting to watch, as long as they aren't faltering as much as the one from Cerberus did in game 2. So I think if I had to pick one of those two, I would pick the Kai'Sa Viego Lissandra one.
Okay, second one. Dark technology from the VCS. Duskblade, Lethality Ezreal, something that Slater has played before, or Heartsteel Cannon.
I feel the Cannon one is definitely darker technology. I feel Ezreal has plenty of dark technologies, but they're all like a light smattering of dark. Where Heartsteel Cannon is just the depths of the abyss.
I think it is a darker technology for sure, because I mean the thing with go a bit more on the analysis side of things, like the Duskblade Ezreal is kind of like a thing that is justified just by the fact that Ezreal doesn't have a true mythic item, so it kind of just has to go whatever and just I guess I like the fatality is what really is what he's arguing to himself, as long as he just goes up to the gold and actually makes a purchase at Bo5's shop. So I think that one is more explainable. So I would agree that Heartsteel Cannon, we thought also in game 2, is a very dark technology, and also one way to win the game, especially in those metas, to punish those tanks. Like if you played against Sion like a Rumble, where they just look at you slowly creeping on the turret and just demolishing it, and it's just very disgusting and cruel to play against it. So I would also say it's definitely the Heartsteel Cannon.
Okay, and one last one to close out this series for today. Predictions for the final set. We saw them had a very competitive 5 games the last time around, but who do you think is going to be the champion of VCS Spring 2023 and be the VCS representative at MSI? Is it going to be SBTC or GAM Esports?
I'm hoping it's a close 3-2, but I mean typical rule is never bet against GAM, so I'm gonna say 3-2 GAM, but I'm hoping for SBTC because I want a few more faces at the international stage that people don't recognize.
I agree. I also want SBTC to win, but I think betting against GAM would just be disingenuous to what you really are having in your own thoughts in this point. So it's kind of like today, but the other way around, SBTC likely losing this one. But they are, of course, coming in for us as some sort of like a fan favorite to just showcase the region more to the international audience. But I also think that GAM probably wins it 3-2 or 3-1.
Well, for me, it's the chicken roster. That is my pick to see it. I haven't watched GAM games, but I love what I'm seeing from SBTC. I'm a batting man. I bat against GAM. I did it in 2018, and I'm pushing SBTC to do that. And with that, we are coming to the end of the broadcast. I hope you've enjoyed today. On the analyst desk was Mabi, Quincy, and myself, Jensen. On production was Spoots, and on the cast was once again Mabi and Rubble Fox. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast today, and enjoy the games.